There are so many, but don't get it twisted. Just cause something is a drug doesn't automatically mean it was meant to be consumed in the dirty stalls of nightclub bathrooms. Even most of the substances that do fall into that category were never intentionally designed for it. Take one of the most famous magic powders, for example, cocaina. Like many other potential life-destroying addictions, Coco Loco didn't mean any harm. In fact, I bet when Albert Neiman isolated coke from cocoa leaves in 1860, he had no idea he was setting the stage for future South American entrepreneurs to thrive. It was actually first used as an anesthetic by dentists and surgeons. But over the next 150 years, it morphed into what we know today. Coco Loco was praised as a miracle drug for fatigue, depression, and even toothaches. It was a common ingredient in tonics, elixirs, and yes, Coca-Cola. Sigmund Freud, the famed neurologist, was one of its biggest advocates, calling it a magical substance and even prescribing it to his friends and patients. Unfortunately, Freud later regretted his enthusiasm when he realized the drug's ultra-addictive properties, particularly after seeing his friend Ernst von Fleischli-Marxoff develop a severe coke addiction. But hey, what you gonna do? Well, lay off the coke, I guess. But $200 per gram snow isn't the only notorious drug that was once legal. In fact, I think you'll be quite surprised by how many of today's big no-no substances started off their career as miracle drugs and were prescribed as medicine by doctors and shit. Which the next one we'll be talking about was actually used in World War II to create super soldiers unafraid of death. Basically, imagine the entire plotline of Captain America the First Avenger, but instead of that blue super serum, they had methamphetamine. World War II super soldier pills. World War II wasn't just a clash of nations, it was a showdown fueled by, well, meth. Every major power looked at methamphetamine and said, you know what would pair nicely with tanks and fighter planes? What? Okay, hear me out. A highly addictive stimulant that makes soldiers feel invincible. That way, if somehow survive the war, they won't just have the PTSD, they'll also have the crippling drug addiction. What combo? You, sir, are a genius. I'll run it by Evil Mustache Man tomorrow. The Germans were all in on methamphetamine because, well, of course they were. In 1938, a German pharmaceutical company developed Pervitin, which was essentially meth in pill form. It was so effective at keeping soldiers awake and focused that it earned the nickname Panzer Chocolate because nothing says war effort like drug-laced can. Blitzkrieg tactics, rapid, relentless, no-sleep attacks weren't just about strategy. German soldiers were popping Pervitin like they were at a rave. The drug kept them awake for days as they marched across Europe, which might explain the whole let's invade everyone vibe. Soldiers wrote home about how great it was. I felt alert, powerful, and unstoppable. Translation, Dear Mom, I am on meth. It is amazing. Fun fact, Adolf Hitler himself was a walking pharmacy. His personal doctor, Theodor Morell, gave him regular methamphetamine injections to keep him energized. Some even considered that it might have been his downfall, because, well, it is hard to keep a clear and strategic mindset while you're on more drugs than a festival main event. Japan wasn't about to be left out of the stimulant arms race either. Their version of meth, Philippon, was handed out to soldiers, factory workers, and kamikaze pilots. Yes, kamikaze pilots. Imagine being told, hey, so looks like you're flying a one-way mission today, aka you're going to die, but here's some meth to make it more fun. Japan for the win! Fist bump? No? Okay, well, I'll be on my way. Handing out more meth. The Allies weren't innocent in this drug-fueled war either. Well, they didn't have Pervitin, they had Benzedrine, an amphetamine that was basically meth's slightly less chaotic cousin. British and American troops popped these pep pills to stay awake during long bombing raids and grueling marches. British Royal Air Force pilots used Benzedrine to stay awake during night raids. Some of them were so wired that after bombing German cities, they'd come back, clean their planes, and write detailed mission reports. In cursive. Side effects? Well, a few pilots became so overconfident they ignored orders, which is probably not ideal when you're flying a plane full of explosives. By the end of World War II, methamphetamine had carved out a reputation as both a war hero and a total disaster. Sure, it helped soldiers stay awake, march faster, and bomb better, but it also turned them into jittery, paranoid wrecks. Post-war, many soldiers came home with what we might call battlefield meth habits. Nothing like trying to adjust to civilian life while also coming down from a 3-year stimulant bender, Which makes me wonder, what if instead of meth being the substance of choice in World War II, everybody was just smoking the Lord's loud?
We must invade everyone. We must kill everything. Perhaps we should just call this bullshit off.
But the thing with smoking anything regularly is that eventually your body is gonna feel it. Coughing, mucus, lower stamina, these are all things that can come from too much loud in your lungs, bruh. This next drug might be even more well known and its history even weirder, and that is MDMA. from lab coat to dance floor. First off, MDMA wasn't created for partying. Oh no, it was born in 1912 in the lab of a German pharmaceutical company called Merck. The chemist behind it, Anton Kurlisch, wasn't really trying to invent a drug that makes people hug strangers at music festivals. He was working on an entirely different problem, synthesizing medications to stop excessive bleeding. MDMA was just a random byproduct in this quest. It was an accident, which is somehow the most MDMA thing ever. Did Merck realize they'd accidentally created a future rave drug? No, not at all. They didn't even test MDMA on humans. Instead, they filed it away under meh, not important. It was just another molecule on a long list of maybe useful someday compounds. Fast forward to the 1950s when the US military and the CIA were doing some totally normal Cold War things, like trying to figure out how to use drugs for mind control, aka MK Ultra. MDMA caught their eye as a potential tool for interrogations because, nothing screams top-notch spycraft like dosing people with a chemical that makes them feel euphoric and want to talk about their feelings. Did it work? Not really. Turns out making someone feel like they're floating on a cloud doesn't exactly make them spill state secrets. It'd probably make them say things like, I feel like we should all just get along. Not exactly espionage gold. The 1970s rolled around and MDA finally found its groove, not as a party drug, but as a psychotherapy aid. Therapists rediscovered the compound and started using it in sessions to help patients open up emotionally. Why spend years breaking down emotional walls when you could just take MDMA and bulldoze through them in one afternoon? Like all good things, MDMA's peaceful little therapy bubble couldn't last. The drug escaped from the therapist's office and somehow landed in the hands of partygoers. By the 1980s, MDMA had become the ultimate nightclub companion. In classic marketing genius, someone decided that MDMA didn't sound cool enough for the club scene, so they rebranded it as ecstasy. Boom! Instant hit. By the mid-80s, ecstasy was everywhere. Raves, dance floors, house parties, you name it. People loved the euphoric high, the amplified sense of connection, and let's be honest, the way it made techno music sound like the voice of God. Naturally, this didn't sit well with the authorities. By 1985, the US government officially classified MDMA as a Schedule I drug, meaning it was deemed highly addictive with no medical use. Despite being banned, MDMA didn't just vanish, it continued thriving in underground scenes and became a staple of rave culture. Meanwhile, researchers never gave up on its potential for therapy. In recent years, it's had a bit of a comeback, this time as a possible treatment for PTSD, anxiety, and depression. Studies are showing that MDMA-assisted therapy is shockingly effective, especially for people with severe PTSD. It turns out the same drug that makes people hug strangers at Burning Man can also help veterans confront their darkest memories. Talk about range. But staying on the topic of MK Ultra and the government's attempts at mind control, there's another drug that caught their eye, and that is LSD. The story of LSD begins in 1938 with a Swiss chemist named Albert Hofmann, who worked for the pharmaceutical company Sandoz. Hofmann was tinkering with compounds derived from ergot, a fungus that grows on rye and other grains. His goal was to develop a stimulant for respiratory and circulatory systems. Instead, he accidentally created a psychedelic ticket to another dimension. Classic mix-up. When he first synthesized LSD, it didn't seem particularly interesting, so he shelved it for 5 years. In 1943 though, Hofmann revisited the compound, and while working with it, he accidentally absorbed a tiny amount through his skin. This led to the world's first acid trip, which Hofmann described as unusual shapes with intense kaleidoscopic play of colors. Which, I wish he had used an easier word to describe it, so I wouldn't have to Google its pronunciation.
Kaleidoscopic.
A few days after his accidental exposure, Hofmann decided to take 250 micrograms of LSD to see what it could do. Spoiler, this was way too much for a first trip. Soon after, he realized he was extremely high and decided to bike home, thus creating Bicycle Day, the unofficial holiday for LSD enthusiasts. Hofmann described it as a state of dreamlike euphoria mixed with terror. Everything around him warped and shifted. He thought his neighbor was a witch, his furniture was threatening him, and the walls were melting. Fun! And yet, Hofmann still considered it a fascinating and valuable experience. That's commitment to science right there. By the 1950s, LSD wasn't just a curiosity, it became a promising tool for psychiatry. Sandoz marketed it as Delicit and sent samples to psychiatrists and researchers worldwide. Therapists believed LSD could help patients confront repressed trauma, treat alcoholism, and even boost creativity. It made people talk. A lot. Patients would have emotional breakthroughs, experience vivid memories, and feel like they were seeing the truth of the universe. Therapists thought they had found the ultimate shortcut to inner peace. A notable success found by researchers was that LSD could help alcoholics quit drinking, with some claiming they experienced a spiritual awakening during their trips. It was like AA, but with rainbows and fractals. As with most cool things in the 20th century, the US government took one look at LSD and thought, how can we weaponize this? Enter MK Ultra, the CIA's infamous mind control project. LSD became the drug of choice for experiments and unwitting subjects. The CIA thought LSD could be used to brainwash people, extract secrets, or turn spies into super suggestible puppets. Apparently no one told them that acid mostly makes people want to stare at the ceiling and listen to music. Awkward. Anyway, the reality was that the experiments were a mess. Subjects, often unaware they'd been dosed, experienced paranoia, hallucinations, and existential crises. Turns out slipping LSD into someone's coffee isn't the best way to create a super spot. Who knew? By the 1960s, LSD had escaped the lab and landed squarely in the hands of counterculture pioneers. Enter Timothy Leary, the Harvard psychologist turned acid evangelist. Leary's mantra, turn on, tune in, drop out, became the rallying cry for a generation of hippies exploring their consciousness. By the late 1960s, though, LSD's reputation had gone from therapeutic miracle to moral panic. Stories of bad trips, psychotic breaks, and people thinking they could fly, hint they couldn't, spread like wildfire. Governments around the world scrambled to ban LSD, labeling it as dangerous and addictive, despite there being little evidence to support either claim. In 1970, the US classified LSD as a Schedule I drug, making it illegal for any use, even research. The summer of love was over, and the war on drugs was in full swing. Every effect weed has on you and your brain explained. No need to dilly-dally here. Let's start with the most commonly reported effect, and probably the reason half of you clicked this video. Creativity. It's Friday night, you just got home, grabbed some exotic lettuce, rolled a doobie, spark it up, and after the mandatory coughing session, something interesting happens. Your perception shifts, and it feels like your brain just opened the floodgates and let every thought through, whether it's brilliant, questionable, or something that absolutely should have stayed in the drafts. And this isn't magic, it's actually pretty simple. Your sober brain has a built-in filter. Its full-time job is to say things like, this idea is stupid, that won't work, people will judge this. Stay on track, we're not doing that. THC weakens the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for judgment, self-criticism, and control. So instead of instantly killing ideas, your brain just lets them exist a little longer. And that matters because creativity is mostly about connecting unrelated ideas. THC increases communication between brain regions that don't normally talk to each other, which is why you suddenly start making connections that feel genius in the moment and occasionally still are the next day. Sober thinking is efficient and goal-oriented. High thinking is conceptual and abstract. That's also why drawing, music, and games can suddenly feel incredible while you're high, while things like spreadsheets and math feel borderline impossible. Your brain has basically switched modes. Instead of, let's get this done as efficiently as possible, it's now on, what even is a spreadsheet but a pile of ideas presented in the form of numbers. Which is great if you're making art, not so great if your boss needs an Excel file by Monday. But after about 15 to 30 minutes of entering the most creative and motivated flow state of the century, you'll probably start feeling something else. Laziness. Or more accurately, loss of motivation. Right after you come up with an idea so incredible yet so simple, it's genuinely confusing how no one has ever thought of it before. Naturally, you try to figure out how to bring this idea into fruition, and then that motivation fades. The confidence disappears, the urgency evaporates, and what you're left with is one overwhelming desire to sit down, relax, turn on your favorite show, and consume entertainment like it's a full-time job. Simply put, this happens because of the grass's connection to your brain's dopamine, the chemical responsible for motivation, not pleasure. Dopamine isn't about enjoying things, it's about wanting to do things. It's the reason you start projects, chase goals, get up and actually execute the genius idea you just had. THC gives you a short dopamine spike at first, which is why you feel motivated, creative, and ready to conquer the world. But then it suppresses dopamine signaling, meaning your brain goes from, I should do something with this idea, to, or I could sit down and watch Stranger Things. Your brain basically decides the reward has already been collected, no effort required. From an evolutionary standpoint, THC has tricked your brain into thinking, mission accomplished, we're safe, no need to grind. After you've cozied up, your brilliant idea already forgotten unless you wrote it down, and entered a state where the TV is now doing the thinking for you, something else starts cooking. Your good old friend THC has one more gift. It activates receptors in the hypothalamus, the part of your brain that decides whether you're hungry, full, or I could eat again just to be sure. It increases a hunger hormone called ghrelin, which is why suddenly you're not just hungry, you're interested in food. At the same time, THC boosts dopamine release in response to eating. So once your brain has officially canceled productivity for the evening, it starts looking for the next easiest source of reward. And food is an instinctual, evolutionary pleasure, something humans have been hardwired to enjoy since the dawn of time. THC also enhances smell and taste, which is why the most average snack you own suddenly feels like a 5-star experience. From your brain's perspective, this is perfect. Work is done, frets are gone, energy storage sounds like a great idea. Which is why you could end up destroying your pantry like you're preparing for winter, despite having eaten like an hour ago. But some people don't even get the munchies, especially more experienced users. Tolerance changes things. However, there's one effect that's almost guaranteed. Introspection. Weed increases inward focused thinking by shifting attention away from the outside world and toward your internal thoughts. So instead of thinking about what's happening around you, your brain starts replaying past conversations, old decisions, relationships, that one thing you said 3 years ago that was maybe slightly awkward. THC reduces mental noise, which can make thoughts feel cleaner and more emotionally vivid. That's why introspection while high can feel insightful, therapeutic, borderline philosophical. You start connecting patterns in your own behavior, questioning habits, and occasionally coming to conclusions that feel like life-changing revelations. Sometimes they are, sometimes they absolutely are not. And this is where weed becomes a mirror. If you're in a good headspace, introspection can lead to self-understanding, emotional processing, creative or personal breakthroughs. But if you're already anxious or stressed, the same mechanism can spiral into overthinking. Because, well, when your brain turns inward with no distractions, it doesn't just analyze the good stuff. But now we're entering the inconsistent parts. The fix that change depending on the person, their tolerance, and the situation they're in. Everything up until now has been pretty run-of-the-mill. Effects you'll almost feel every time, at least a little. These next ones, not guaranteed. Starting with short-term memory loss. This one happens because THC intervenes with the hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for forming and temporarily storing new memories. Your brain is still receiving information, you're still thinking, understanding, and reacting normally. It just becomes worse at encoding those moments into short-term memory. So you can follow a conversation, watch a movie, or have a deep thought, but the moment passes without being properly saved. That's why you'll often remember the vibe of what happened, but not the details. Long-term memory remains mostly unaffected. Your brain just forgets to press save on the last few minutes. Anxiety and paranoia. This effect mainly comes from THC increasing activity in the amygdala, the brain's threat and emotion processing center. THC heightens awareness of thoughts, sensations, and surroundings. At lower doses or in a comfortable setting, that can feel relaxing or grounding, but at higher doses or with low tolerance, the same heightened awareness turns inward. Normal bodily sensations get misinterpreted. A faster heart rate feels alarming. Background noises feel significant. Thoughts loop because the brain keeps flagging them as important. Nothing new is being created. Your brain is just assigning too much meaning to normal signals. Time distortion. Time distortion happens because THC disrupts communication between the prefrontal cortex and the basal ganglia, which together help track time, predict outcomes, and sequence events. When this system is altered, your brain stops measuring time by progress or goals. Instead, it measures time by experience, which is why waiting feels longer, boredom stretches time, and engaging moments disappear quickly. This effect becomes much stronger when you're doing nothing because your brain has no external reference points to anchor time. Focus, hyper-focus, or distraction. THC reduces top-down control from the prefrontal cortex, which normally helps you manage attention and suppress distractions. For highly stimulating tasks, games, music, drawing, this narrowing of attention creates deep immersion. Everything else fades away. For boring, complex, or effort-heavy tasks, though, that same narrowing becomes a problem. Your brain doesn't want to allocate effort unless the reward is immediate. Weed doesn't improve focus, it selects what you focus on. Social effects. THC lowers social self-consciousness by reducing activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that monitors behavior and self-presentation. What happens next, though, depends on personality. If you're naturally expressive, you may talk more and open up emotionally. If you're more introspective, you may become quieter and more observant. The filter is lowered, but THC doesn't decide what comes through it. Sleep effects. THC can make falling asleep easier. However, with frequent use, it suppresses REM sleep, the stage associated with dreaming and emotional processing. That's why regular users often report fewer dreams. When THC use stops, though, REM sleep rebounds, which is why dreams suddenly return, often intensely. This is also why if you're smoking frequently, you might feel slightly tired all the time, like you could take a nap at any moment. Your body is essentially signaling, hey, we should probably actually rest for a bit. THC makes falling asleep easier, but with heavy or frequent use, it can interfere with sleep quality. smoking ganja, inhaling nature's secret mist, partaking in the forbidden lettuce. Call it what you want, it doesn't really matter. What does matter is how you act when you do it. And not just how you act in the moment, but your mindset toward the Zaza in general. Because after about 3 years of being a self-appointed Zaza scientist, I've started to notice something. Your relationship with the Lord's Loud is often just a reflection of your overall personality. Are you a binge toker, a controlled, consistent explorer, or are you the guy who only really enjoys being faded when everyone else around him is also faded? There's a lot to unpack here, so let's just start this off properly with the unwinder. The unwinder is a type of lettuce enjoyer who uses the grass to, well, unwind. And I don't just mean he tokes up at night after work. His entire mindset toward the lettuce is basically flipping a switch in your brain that activates chill mode. Whether he's alone or with friends, he's almost always down for whatever, as long as it doesn't involve interrupting his chill. So if you're faded in a group with this guy and someone goes, "Hey, you know what will be crazy? If we all went skinny dipping right now in that ice-cold pond outside," you can know with 100% certainty that he does not want to go. Internally, he is in agony because everyone just agreed to an activity that is completely incompatible with a chill night. But since he is chill to the max, instead of complaining like a little bitch, he goes along with it. He does the stupid skinny dipping, he participates, he nods along, but he looks visibly dead inside because while everyone else is out there having fun, all he's thinking is, "I can't wait for this to be over so I can get high and watch alpha male influencers," ironically, for comedy. Which brings us to the bane of the unwinder's existence, the recovering alcoholic. And obviously, I don't mean this literally. I mean the type of dude who doesn't view the grass much differently than he views poison in a bottle. To him, getting faded means entering an altered state of mind where the goal is activity, banter, movement, ideas, doing things. And I hate this guy. Well, not really. Because if you've ever been in a sesh made of only unwinders, you know the problem. The aura of chill becomes overwhelming. Everyone is so content with whatever that nothing actually happens. No show or movie gets chosen, no midnight McDonald's run is agreed upon, no potential link up with some baddies is even explored because all of those things would interrupt the chill night. But here's the reality. Even the chillest of tokers enjoys a bit of flair, a bit of spice, something that adds variety and gives you a new appreciation for chilling afterward, which even the chillest of unwinders need a little adventure now and then, if only to have something to talk about afterwards. So while the unwinder and this guy are complete opposites, they actually need each other to survive. One prevents chaos, the other prevents stagnation. Together, balance. But beyond the yin and yang of Zaza smokers, there are a lot of more specific archetypes, and one I've been noticing a lot lately is the one who starts moving irregular. You'd think this one would be super common, but it actually isn't. For most people, the Zaza just amplifies who they already are. Sure, they'll have more wild takes, more philosophical comments, maybe some outlandish remarks, but it's still them. When the Zaza gets someone moving irregular though, you can tell instantly. I'm talking about the dude who changes, he warps, he becomes a version of himself you never see. Maybe it's a side that's always there internally but only comes out when he's high. Who knows? A lot of these people start talking. And I mean talking. They laugh at everything, every thought gets externalized, and depending on the situation, they become a lot to manage. As a proud unwinder, it's always wild to watch someone smoke up and then act like they just did a line in the bathroom. It feels like they're saying everything that pops into their head, sometimes in a way that makes holding a conversation borderline impossible. And holding a convo while high is already hard enough without someone interrupting every 5 seconds. That said, I try not to be a D about it, because it reminds me of the days when I'd smoke a bowl and feel like I just entered a completely different universe. And also because usually these dudes don't smoke that often, and telling someone to talk less while they're high is one of the fastest ways to absolutely murder their vibe. When you're high, you just want to say what's on your mind, and I respect that. I just wish there was a slight verbal filter involved, for the sake of being able to talk about one subject for longer than 10 seconds. Which, quite ironically, this guy also has an exact opposite. opposite. The sunken place. I low-key used to be like this, and the reason was pretty simple. I wasn't fully comfortable sharing my high thoughts, or honestly my thoughts in general. I've always processed life a bit differently. But enough self-glazing. The sunken place isn't really a type of Zaza smoker per se, but it can be, especially if you find yourself entering it often well off the Zaza. It's a state of deep thinking, analyzing, criticizing, planning, but instead of doing it normally or sharing some of those thoughts if you're in a group, you completely disappear into your own head. From the outside, it just looks like you're quiet, maybe a little sad, because let's be real, nobody thinks deeply with a smile on their face. If you've ever toked up with someone like this, you've probably felt inclined to ask, "Bro, you good?" Or, "What you thinking about?" But I'm sorry to tell you, despite your good intentions, all you're really doing is interrupting his 7-layer plan to escape the Matrix, or his full psychological analysis of everyone in the room. What makes it funny is when he finally snaps back to reality, because you could be talking about some random shit for like 20 minutes, he's been quiet as a mouse the entire time, and then suddenly he just goes, "Yeah, bruh, that's why I stay looks-maxing." Man jumps in the conversation like he hasn't just spent the last 20 minutes completely alone in his own head, straight scheming. But now, for one, I would just straight up not invite to the sesh. The ultra serious one. Some people can't be saved. You think an uptight, overly serious person would inhale the relaxing magic and finally unwind a bit. And to be fair, most of the time that does happen. But then there are the ones who simply cannot be helped. The ones who have never been prescribed the chill pill in their entire life. These are the dudes who don't realize the irony of how helpless and useless having a strong opinion actually is. People who, for some reason, still haven't realized that they are not even a tiny gear in the rotation of the world. They're just a microscopic fraction of the oil needed to keep the machine running. And yeah, sure, Obama and shit had strong opinions too, and he became president. Whether you like him or not, at least he tried to do something instead of just complaining. But this guy, his aspirations stop at making manager at Best Buy. Meanwhile, his opinions, especially while high, are so intense that you're genuinely nervous to pull up AI Trump memes while he's in the room. And don't even think about sharing a chill thought like, "Maybe we should all just get along." He'll instantly counter with some facts he got from TikTok about how the world government is actually ran by AI reptiles planning a full-scale takeover. The system is corrupt, America is doomed, and if you think otherwise, don't worry. He remembers another obscure article about something Trump allegedly said in 2019 about invading mainland Mongolia with nuclear-powered drones built by a secret McDonald's military division. And I mean, shit, who knows, maybe he's right. But what he doesn't realize is that he's not the only person in the room who watches YouTube and talks to ChatGPT. He is, however, the only person in the room who hasn't realized that none of it actually matters. And even if it did, what the hell would you even do about it? Laying off the za, taking a break, letting your body recalibrate back to life without funny little brain receptor ticklers. Truly a difficult time for us lettuce enjoyers, but unfortunately, it's a challenge we must all face every once in a while to uphold the good name of the magic green plants and to prove the blasphemy wrong.
Oh, you say grass isn't addictive, yet you do it every day. Sounds like a closet addiction.
And listen, that is, in all honesty, a pretty solid argument and not an easy one to fight with a straight face. The only real counter is this. You must have proven to yourself that you can, in fact, put the lettuce down whenever you want. Debates with non-believers aside though, the real reason you and I should take breaks every now and then isn't to win arguments with old people, it's to keep the Zaza magical. Something you look forward to, not something you rely on just to function. Because, trust me, I've been there, faded 24/7, tolerance so cooked that you're blasting a whole bowl of exotic and thinking, yeah, I'd go for another. And so I urge you, trust me on this, as the greatest Zaza content creator on this platform, heed my warning. The fun of the grass is at its peak when you are in control. Control of your life, your goals, your work or studies, and the Lord's loud is used as a reward for a hard day's work, not the prerequisite for starting the day. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the only healthy relationship with the lettuce is limiting yourself to one sacred nighttime toke. That's a great stable place to be, but let's be real. It's 2026, remote work, online jobs, online school, at-home potato life. It would be unreasonable to never get faded on a productive day. But, and this is a big but, you must do it knowingly. Not, oh, what a great morning. More like,
Oh, what a great morning. Work.
woo! Got most of my stuff done, still got a bit left, but I'ma do it faded. That's the difference. Control first, Zaza second. But keeping a healthy balance is more than just smoking like a chimney for half a year, basically living in a constant state of mild brain off mode, and then randomly deciding, alright, I guess I'll take a week off. Because let's be honest about how that usually goes. That 1 week isn't spent improving your life, it's spent feeling vaguely sad that everything is low-key boring, counting down the days until the break is over and romanticizing the first tote back. And then once the time finally arrives, you proceed to launch yourself straight back to ground zero within 2 days. Tolerance reset, cancel. Honestly, tolerance breaks are kind of overrated. Now, don't get me wrong, they are absolutely needed every once in a while, mostly just to prove to yourself that you do not need the lettuce. You just like having the grass in your life and don't see it as more destructive than having a few drinks with the boys on the weekend. But what you should really be focusing on isn't tolerance breaks, it's tolerance maintenance. Instead of reaching the point where you're watching self-improvement videos telling you that the lettuce is the root of all your problems, it's far better to keep consumption at levels where you never spiral into that rabbit hole in the first place. Let me give you a very realistic example. Let's say you just came off a 2-day World of Warcraft bender, faded 24/7, weekend's over, Monday hits. You know deep down you should probably do something productive instead of screaming at your teammates for not knowing molten core mechanics. Anyway, at this point, there are 2 realistic paths you can take, whether you like it or not. Path A. You tell yourself, yeah, I'll be productive after I take this fat dab. You sit down at your PC, that big wow desktop icon is staring directly into your soul. You manage about 15 minutes of work stretched across 3 hours because the rest of the time you're thinking about some random funny thoughts, scrolling YouTube, or mentally planning your next gear upgrade path. Eventually, after what feels like an eternity, you start playing WoW. And you smoke some more because, you're already faded was a little extra. And so on and so on. Until a few weeks or months later, you wake up with peak brain fog, zero appetite for breakfast, only cravings for the Lord's Loud, and you think, damn, it's this darn grass ruining my life. I need to quit. So you take a week off. It's empty. You want to get faded, but you can't. And then you either repeat the cycle again in a month or 2, or you quit forever because you realize staying on this emotional roller coaster for the rest of your life probably isn't healthy. Or path B. You decide that no, you're not going to sabotage your few clear-headed hours of productivity today. You get your stuff done first. Then and only then you get faded and enjoy your game. Maybe with a proper bender waiting for you next weekend. This way you still get to look forward to getting faded and your tolerance slowly drifts back to normal because your consumption naturally went from 7 bowls a day on the weekend to 1, maybe half a bowl during the week. No dramatic quitting, no identity crisis, no grass ruin my life YouTube thumbnails, just control, and that's the whole point. But how do I know when I should take a tolerance break? And how do I know when I'm not in control anymore? Thankfully, it's actually pretty simple, assuming you have a relatively healthy, balanced relationship with the grass compared to your other hobbies. A good time to take a break is when your life already feels full, when you've got interesting stuff going on, things you're generally looking forward to. At that point, you don't really need the extra wonder of the Zaza. This usually lines up naturally with your other hobbies. If you got a packed week ahead, gym sessions, projects, plans, games, whatever, it can be the perfect time to take your bi-yearly, yearly, or whatever makes sense break from the lettuce. It'll probably be so easy, you won't even notice it. But there's an asterisk here. This only works if you already have a healthy relationship with the Lord's Loud. A relationship where not everything in your life has to be done faded. Now, a bad time to take a break, if there even is such a thing, is when you're staring down a completely dead week. All your friends are busy or away, it's cold outside, nothing's happening, maybe your CrossFit, Pilates, football, whatever trainer is sick, maybe you're sick, maybe all you can realistically do is sit at home and exist. That's the exact time frame where you're going to miss the fade way more than usual, and try to force a break during a period like that can be genuinely difficult, even for someone who normally has their consumption under control. For example, I've recently been dealing with a bit of an injury, which means I've been bed rotting at home for the past few weeks, and I'm not ashamed to admit I've been faded more often than usual. Because Well, I got nothing to do. But I don't feel bad about it. I'm not questioning whether I'm still in control. Why? Because I literally just came off a 2-week break where I didn't struggle at all. Sure, at night you might think, man, this show is good, but it'd even be better if I was faded. That thought still exists, but during the rest of the day when I was actually doing things, I didn't even think about it. And that's why I can enjoy a controlled Zaza bender without guilt. Honestly, I don't see why I can't have the Lord's Loud be a part of my life for a very long time, maybe forever. I enjoy being faded. I enjoy it more than like 95% of the people I know. I choose to partake in the lettuce because it generally fits my personality and my hobbies. But I'm not stupid. I know it can be addictive and I treat it like any other vice. Just one I'm consciously willing to balance for the foreseeable future. We all know navigating the wild world of strains is complicated. Like, yeah, some are supposed to be good. Everyone's heard of gelato, but what the hell is gelato? Why is it so special compared to some random generic sounding strain called Tropicana Reggie? Well, long story short, it all comes down to these tiny chemical gremlins called terpenes. They're the little flavor goblins that set the tone of your Zaza. And a good strain, that's basically when a specific mix of terpenes happens to hit in just the right way, and enough people collectively agree, yeah, this combo goes crazy, bro. As more and more people start studying the sacred art of the forbidden lettuce, they realize something. Not all grass hits the same. You start noticing patterns, like every time I smoke gelato, I'm chill, relaxed, maybe even a little poetic. But every time I smoke Dopa Loca Coca, I'm having fun until halfway through I start
rethinking every decision I've ever made.
Weird. And that's how it happens. One good experience, one consistent vibe, one damn, this gelato always hits right moment at a time. Boom. You just helped build gelato's rep in the strain world. But here's the problem that comes with clout. With it comes people trying to use it to their advantage. Because for every real gelato, there's 5 dudes out there trying to make a quick buck off its name. They'll use its hype against you, the innocent, curious, naive explorer who just wanted some premium Zaza. You'll be looking at the menu, scrolling through the options, and there it is. Oh snap, gelato? I've heard a rapper mention that once. It's only 20 bucks an eighth? Of course, bruh. But the harsh truth, that's not gelato. That's the leftovers, the unsold mids, the bottom shelf bud that's been reborn through the sacred art of false labeling. They slap a shiny gelato name on it and suddenly it's flying off the shelves faster than a too good to be true Black Friday deal. But here's the good news. Fake gelato doesn't always mean bad Zaza. Most of the time it's still decent, maybe even good. It's just inconsistent. One batch might have you chilling like a monk in a candlelit spa, and the next might have you cleaning your kitchen at 3 a.m. questioning your childhood. It's not that the grass is bad, it's just that the strain name doesn't mean much anymore. You're not buying gelato, you're buying a dude's interpretation of gelato. And that's why knowing your terpenes, genetics, and real cultivars actually matters, so you can tell the difference between hype buds and real deal legacy strains that hit the same every time. So, for the sake of science, education, and dare I even say the furtherment of mankind, I present to you the ultimate guide to strains. We're breaking down what's actually out there, from the real budget strains that stay consistent and won't break the bank, to the mid-tier Zaza for when you want to splurge a bit. Maybe it's a special occasion, you just hit level 50 on Borderlands 4 and you're looking for that reliable to even semi-exotic high. And finally, the premium exotics that make you stare at the price tag like, who in their right mind would spend 120 bucks on an eighth? Well, not people in their right mind, but the ones chasing that, I gotta try it once to see if the hype is real. And yeah, some of those strains are genuinely worth it, but the real reason to know them isn't to flex, it's to make sure you don't get bamboozled by the hype. Let's start from the bottom, but respectfully. Because budget strains aren't bad grass, they're the OGs that built the foundation of modern Zaza. They've been around so long and grown so much that even mid-level growers can make them shine. These are the mass-cultivated, well-understood classics, simple genetics, easy to grow and reliable no matter who's behind the grow line. Basically, they're cheap because everyone knows how to do them right. The humble, honest, budget Zaza. These are the people strains, the ones that don't need holographic packaging or rapper cosigns. They're affordable because they've been around forever. The genetics are stable stable and growers have them down to a science. Blue Dream is the perfect example. Born in California in the early 2000s, a child of blueberry and haze, it became the blueprint for good bud that doesn't ruin your day. It's balanced, euphoric, and clear-headed. Growers love it because it yields like crazy and barely dies no matter what you do to it. That's why even when it's cheap, it still hits smooth and familiar, a strain that's too reliable to ever really go out of style. Then there's Northern Lights, basically the granddad of all chill strains. It first popped up in the Pacific Northwest in the 80s before the Dutch perfected it in Amsterdam. Fast-growing, pest-proof, and built for mass indoor farms, it's been industrially cultivated for decades, which is why it's still affordable, but almost always legit. If the Magic Spice had a bedtime story, it'd be Northern Lights tucking you in. Super Lemon Haze adds some zest to the mix, a citrus-forward legend. It's what happens when Lemon Skunk and Super Silver Haze have a love child that smells like optimism. It's bright, energetic, and dependable, the kind of Satovia you can find almost anywhere without gambling on quality. Now as we climb the Zaza ladder, we reach that middle ground, the zone of responsible indulgence. These are the strains you grab when you've got a little extra cash and want something that actually tastes as good as it feels. They're pricier but not ridiculous, because they come from more curated genetics, smaller batches, and growers who actually care about flavor. Gelato 33 sits right at the top of this tier. Born from Sunset Sherbet and Thin Mint GSC, it's the one that started the modern luxury grass movement. Creamy, fruity, perfectly balanced, chill, but still productive. When you get the real thing, it smells like dessert and gasoline had a baby. If it doesn't, it's probably just another imposter. Then there's Wedding Cake. Despite the name, it doesn't taste like frosting. It's more earthy vanilla and soft calm. Bred from Triangle Kush and Animal Mints. It's a perfect end of the day but not end of consciousness strain. It's for people who want to feel cozy but not comatose. And then there's Mimosa, the brunch strain, a cross between clementine and purple punch. It's bright, citrusy, and sociable, like orange juice with a personality disorder. It's functional enough for daytime high, yet fun enough to make folding laundry feel like a side quest. But now we step into sacred ground, the true exotics. These are the strains you save for birthdays, paydays, or whenever you just want to flex on your past self. They're expensive, yes, but they're also the reason modern Za culture even exists, because these strains didn't just get famous, they changed the game, son. RS11 or Rainbow Sherbet 11 is where flavor became science. It introduced the whole terps over tea philosophy, fruity, creamy, and absurdly smooth. It's one of the few hype strains that's actually worth the hype, technically. The real cuts are so tightly controlled that fake RS11 almost always outsells the genuine article, because the real one never stays on shelves. Then there's Skittles, the original candy strain. If it smells like a fruit aisle in heaven, you found the real thing. If it smells like lawn clippings, congratulations, you've just been scanned by a marketing major. And finally, Lemon Cherry Gelato, the modern hype king. Every plug claims to have it, most don't. The authentic version bred by Backpack Boys and 5 Points hits with a perfect mix of sweetness, cream, and citrus. Uplifting, euphoric, but without the anxiety spikes. It's potent but balanced, indulgent but smooth. See it for under $50? That's not a deal. That's mid in designer cosplay. And there you have it, your foundational strain knowledge unlocked. You now know which names actually mean something, which ones are safe bets for each budget, and how to spot a clout chaser holding a mislabeled eighth of Skittles like it's the holy grail. 90 bucks. Zaza knowledge, Mary Jane truths, high IQ data that you've never heard before. But not to worry, because today we are uncovering facts about the magic green plant that everybody, for the sake of safety, education, and science should know, because I am always here to inform the public about the risks, cons, the good, the bad, and everything in between about the grass. And with that, you will have a better understanding of what the green plant really is and how it can affect you both positively and negatively. So if you are ready to sit back and learn about some wild facts in an educational way, like how the US government has a secret Zaza farm, or maybe, in case you ever find yourself chilling playing video games and one of your friends pulls up like, "Yo bro, I just got these fresh mangoes. They taste really good. Wanna have some?" "I don't know. I mean, I already ate some banana." "Okay, I get it. You're refusing the last grown mangoes of my dead grandma. Her last wish was that we may enjoy them together." "Oh, I'll eat the damn mangoes if it'll show you up, man."
20 minutes later.
Damn, those mangoes really were good. Yup, and now for dessert. Your turn. Well, I do have work in 2 hours, but okay, what's a couple puffs from a J really gonna do?
Oh my, why am I so faded?
It's the mangoes, bro. They contain the same terpene myrcene that's in the J. That's why the Za hit you so fast and hard. This was always my plan. So, what we playing? I'm guessing you're calling in sick from work. From long-standing prophecies like eat a mango 30 minutes before lighting up to increase your fade, to the US government's secret farm, we have a lot of Zaza facts lined up that'll change your life. Okay, well, maybe not that, but anyway, first up, grass bends your perception of time. Lettuce has this unique ability to bend time, not like interstellar or wormhole physics, more like your brain suddenly hired the most unreliable intern to keep track of the clock. Here's what's actually happening. THC binds to CB1 receptors in your brain, especially in areas like the cerebellum, basal ganglia, and prefrontal cortex. These regions don't just help with movement and decision making, they also play a key role in how we measure time internally. Normally, your brain has a nice steady rhythm for counting seconds and minutes, but when THC hijacks those receptors, that rhythm slows down. The result? Your perception of time stretches out. 10 minutes can feel like half an hour, a short song feels like a symphony, and waiting for the pizza delivery guy feels like you're aging in real time. You might check your phone, think hours have passed, only to find out it's been 4 minutes, and you've already rewatched the same TikTok 3 times. It's not that the outside world is moving slower, everyone else is still living in regular time. It's just that your brain stopwatch is now on stoner time, which is about as reliable as a 5 a.m. alarm when you could technically sleep till 7, which we all love sleeping in until you finally wake up, check the clock, and realize half your day is already gone. Now you're rushing, stressing, and worst of all, you don't even have time to re-up at your favorite shop. Now, I'm personally convinced Zaza bends time both ways. Like, if you're just sitting there waiting for the pizza guy, time basically grinds to a halt. You ordered a cheesy crust double pepperoni masterpiece, haven't eaten in 6 hours. You timed the order perfectly so it would land just as you finished your J and tidied up. The plan was airtight. But now you're starving, high, fixated on that pizza like it's the holy grail. Then you check your phone and it says, estimated delivery 30 minutes? Bruh, it's already been 30 minutes. Man, I think I gotta call that's BS. On the flip side, light up during the day, boot up your favorite game, and suddenly time doesn't slow down at all. It disappears. You're laser focused on farming holy relics, stacking your DPS, grinding HP containers, and just as you finally drop the skeleton keeper for the last item, oh shit! I forgot I have a job! And that's the beauty of the Zaza. It can make time vanish when you need an escape from the grind or stretch it out so you can savor a moment. The trick is balance, because when you overdo it, that escape stops being a luxury and starts feeling like a requirement just to get through the day. But hey, I've ranted about that at least 37 times on this channel already, so let's instead move on to something you might have already known, just maybe not to the full extent, and that is, animals can get high too. People forget it's not just humans who can get high, animals can too. In fact, plenty of them actively seek it out. For example, cats with catnip. That's basically their version of top shelf Zaza. They roll in it, rub their faces in it, then proceed to sprint around the house like they just railed an energy drink. Dolphins have been passing around pufferfish to get a mild buzz off their toxins. That's literally aquatic hotboxing. And reindeer, they'll dig through snow to eat psychedelic mushrooms, then stumble around like it's day one of Burning Man. But here's the kicker, animals don't have the same relationship with THC that humans do. Our endocannabinoid system can process it in ways theirs can't. Dogs and cats, for example, are way more sensitive, so that funny idea of blowing smoke in your pug's face, not only is it cruel, it can actually be toxic. Your dog doesn't need to experience Snoop Dogg mode. Just saying. So yeah, animals can get high, sometimes even on purpose. The difference is, nature gave them their own party flavors. Humans just invited cannabis to the guest lists, which perfectly brings us to, unlike a lot of animals, humans are wired for weed. Now, here's the real twist. Animals can get high, but humans are actually wired for it, like built-in compatibility modes. See, cats have catnip, dolphins have their pufferfish, reindeer have their mushrooms, but humans? We've got something called the endocannabinoid system. It's a network of receptors scattered all over the brain and body. CB1, CB2, that regulate mood, appetite, memory, pain, sleep. Basically, all the things famous for messing with. And the wild part is, our bodies already make their own weed-like chemicals called endocannabinoids. Stuff like anandamida, nicknamed the bliss molecule, it's what gives you that runner's high or that weird wave of calm after eating chocolate. Cannabis just happens to produce compounds that fit those receptors like a skeleton key, especially THC, which plugs in and starts messing with the system. So while your dog might get wrecked from a tiny crumb of an edible, your body is running software straight out of the box. It's not that evolution designed us to spark a joint at 420, but it definitely gave us the hardware to handle it. Think of it like nature pre-installing YouTube on your phone. Cannabis just supplies that premium subscription. But, well, if you do get too high, it's good to know that CBD can actually counteract a too intense high. Yeah, the same plant that turned you into a human beanbag chair also comes with its own built-in antidote. CBD works kind of like the responsible older brother of THC. They both knock on the same brain receptors, but when CBD shows up, it basically says, "Oi, stop all this horsing around, you bloody wankers." Which, I don't know if CBD has a British accent, but you get the idea. So, if you're spiraling, heart racing, thoughts racing, convinced your Uber driver is secretly an undercover cop, a little CBD can take the edge off. And if you don't have CBD handy, there's the old school stoner life hack, black peppercorns. They're loaded with terpenes like beta-caryophyllene that can mellow out a THC overload. Just don't get too weird about it. Chewing pepper like you're auditioning for the Food Network isn't exactly a good look. Moral of the story, if cranks the volume too high, CBD is basically the remote control. You might not get back to completely sober, but at least you'll stop refreshing Google for, "Can you die from eating too many edibles?" And now for the really crazy one, and that is the fact that the US government actually has its own secret weed farm. Yeah, the same people who tell you is illegal at the federal level, they've been quietly growing it for decades. It's tucked away at the University of Mississippi, and it all started back in the 1960s when the feds decided they needed a steady supply of cannabis for official research. So while they were running Just Say No campaigns and blastering anti-weed ads on TV, Uncle Sam was running his own grow-op in the background. Legal for them, illegal for you. Classic. Now, don't get it twisted, this isn't some premium frosty dispensary flower. By most reports, the government stash is tragic. We're talking dry, crumbly, brown flakes that look like oregano someone vacuum sealed in the Nixon era. Basically, if dispensary is 5-star dining, government is the gas station hot dog of cannabis. Technically still weed, but you regret touching it immediately. And here's where it gets even crazier. Starting in 1978, the government actually mailed joints to patients through something called the Compassionate Investigational New Drug Program. A few dozen people with conditions like glaucoma and multiple sclerosis were legally prescribed cannabis, rolled up by the government and shipped in little tins. Each tin held about 300 pre-rolls, and patients got a fresh supply every month. Imagine opening your mailbox and finding a federally issued can of mids stamped "property of the US government." But the program shut down to new applicants in 1992 after the AIDS crisis led to a flood of requests. Today, only a handful of the original patients are still alive and technically still receiving tins from Mississippi. For everyone else, that subscription service is long gone. Still, it's kind of wild to think while regular people were being locked up for carrying a single joint, the feds were quietly tending their own plants in Mississippi and mailing out weed like Publishers Clearinghouse. Hypocrisy, science experiment, maybe both. Either way, next time someone says, "The government is hiding something," you can nod and say, "Yeah, man, it's weed, drugs." Something America has been fighting against for over a century, yet this endeavor hasn't been very fruitful. Basically, imagine the ocean as all the drugs in the US, and they have thousands of people with buckets slowly emptying it out. But the problem is, on the other side of the ocean, there's dudes like Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria who have direct pipelines feeding in endless amounts of pure Colombian cocaina. But you know, Pablo was the GOAT narco. Surely after defeating the Medellin cartel, things would get... Oh, well, fuck. Basically, because the US is by far the biggest market in the world, there will always be tons of entrepreneurs, mostly South American, who want to invest. And because starting a tech company with only 100 pesos and a 2-cylinder motorbike is pretty hard, why not settle for the next best thing? Drugs. From the opium crisis of the late 19th century to the current fentanyl one, we are going to look at every drug epidemic in US history and hopefully by the end of it, learn why the fuck does this keep happening. So let's start it off with the first one. The opium epidemic of the late 19th century. Welcome to the late 1800s, where opium is basically America's favorite snack. Got a headache? Opium. Can't sleep? Opium. You're feeling a little bit down? Yup, opium. Doctors were out here handing them out like strip club invites on the Las Las Vegas Strip, especially in the form of laudanum, a fancy mix of opium and alcohol.
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team fucking here.
Hey, yo, doc, you think I could get a quick refill on that prescription laudanum? You know, that good shit. Sorry, John, we're all out. But here, take this Jack Daniels and powdered opium. Just smack a hit from the pipe and wash it down with the Jack, if you know what I mean. That should get you back on track. To rehab. Oh, geez, thanks, doc. Now, excuse me as I go get fucked up on my medicine and partake in my favorite 19th century pastime, beating my wife. Godspeed, John. But then the Chinese immigrants arrived, working hard and bringing along the practice of smoking opium in dens. These dens were kind of like the Starbucks of the day, except instead of coffee, they served up a bowl of relaxing opium. Naturally, this made some folks nervous, cause nothing says panic like a little cultural exchange mixed with drugs. Then came the moral outrage, which wasn't just about the opium, but also had a hefty dose of racism. Suddenly people decided opium was bad news, especially when it involved Chinese immigrants. So San Francisco passed a law in 1875 targeting these opium dens, effectively saying no more public opium fun for anybody. By 1914, the US government got serious with the Harrison Narcotics Tax Act, making it way harder to get opium without a lot of paperwork. And just like that, the first US drug epidemic started to fade, leaving behind a legacy of questionable drug policies and a whole lot of finger pointing. So what did we learn, or rather should have learned? Well, maybe that it's a bad idea to get the entire country hooked on a substance before figuring out how addictive it is, and that blaming everything on immigrants never really solves the problem, but alas, this lesson was forgotten pretty fast. Now let's jump to the second multi-drug epidemic, which was the heroin, speed, and barbiturates crisis of the mid-20th century. Did you know heroin wasn't always the notorious bad guy we know today? In fact, it started as a miracle drug that was supposed to cure people of their morphine addictions, which I think you're probably starting to see a bit of a pattern here with the US being overly confident in their medical knowledge and getting people hooked on hardcore drugs. Tom, what are you doing with that morphine? Oh, well, I've had this headache since the morning. Well, good luck with that. Morphine is like super addictive, bro. What's that? Oh, this is just heroin. It's like way better than morphine, like way better. Heroin is in fact better than morphine, specifically 2 to 3 times strong. Better. Anyway, doctors back then really did think they'd hit the jackpot. Got a cough? Here's heroin the hero. Feeling a little down? Heroin's got your back. But instead of curing addictions, it just traded one addiction for another, stronger one. And people got hooked faster than you can say Chain's FR clone. Fast forward to the 1960s and 70s, and heroin was like that super obnoxious drunk guy who refused to leave the function. It spread like wildfire, especially in cities. You had everyone from jazz musicians to war veterans getting tangled up in heroin's sticky web. It was cheap, it was potent, and it was everywhere. And then came the crime. As you might guess, a bunch of people addicted to opioids isn't exactly a recipe for peace and harmony. Crime rates soared and cities became battlegrounds, with heroin at the center of it all. The government's solution? A big shiny war on drugs, which mostly involved cracking down on users and dealers with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Instead of helping addicts, they threw them in jail, which was about as effective as smoking indica to boost productivity. Around the same time, there were actually 2 other drugs that were causing havoc as well: barbiturates and amphetamine, aka speed. On one hand, you had amphetamines, or you might know it by its street name, speed. No, not that speed. That speed, yeah. But why was it called speed? Well, cause one dose of these Chaos Emeralds could get you tweaking around like Sonic. These little fuckers were like rocket fuel. Feeling tired? Pop an amphetamine. Need to lose weight? Amphetamines to the rescue. Trying to stay awake for 3 days straight to grind the new Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and become an omni-movement god before anyone else? Yup, you guessed it, amphetamines. But after all that speeding around, people needed to come down, and that's where barbiturates came in. These were the downers that help you sleep, relax, or just stop vibrating like a jackhammer. Doctors handed out like candy, thinking they were the perfect solution for everything from anxiety to insomnia. The result? A whole lot of people bouncing between being wide awake and dead asleep, often with a little too much of both. People started getting seriously hooked on this cocktail of uppers and downers, and it turns out when you mix the two, it's a recipe for disaster, like trying to drive with one foot on the gas and the other on the brake. Overdoses skyrocketed, and suddenly, the party didn't seem so fun anymore. It was shortly after Marilyn Monroe and Judy Garland died from a barbiturate overdose, the government finally decided to step in, cracking down on these pills and making them harder to get. And just like that, America had to find other ways to stay awake or chill out. But now we are arriving to the more well-known controversial epidemics, first of which is the famous crack cocaine epidemic 1980s to 1990s. Crack was like cocaine's cheaper, faster little brother. It was easy to make, easy to get, and way too easy to get hooked on. Think of it as the fast food of drugs. Cheap, quick, and leaving you with serious, I mean serious regrets. Crack hit poor urban neighborhoods the hardest, spreading like crazy. Suddenly everyone and their mama could afford to get high, and before you knew it, communities were being torn apart by addiction and crime. The government's solution? War on drugs, Infinity War. Okay, that's not what they called it, but I mean, it was technically a sequel to the original War on Drugs. But unlike the Avengers, who went after the big bad guy behind the chaos, it mostly involved locking up minorities, even if they were caught with even a tiny, teeny bit of crack. It was like a cruel game of gotcha, where basically everyone lost. Crack is also one of those drugs that if you do it once, it changes the biochemistry of your brain. The euphoria you feel from smoking that shit goes way beyond what the brain can produce itself. So once you get that feeling, your brain will start equating true happiness with smoking crack. That's why even people who are able to quit will most likely never be the same again. If you ask Dave Chappelle, the whole thing was a tragic, darkly ironic mess. He pointed out that when crack hit black communities, the government's response was all about punishment, not help. Fast forward a couple of decades, and when opioids started affecting white communities, suddenly everyone's talking about treatment and compassion. As Chappelle famously joked, it's funny how the tune changes depending on who's affected. The crack epidemic wasn't just a drug crisis, it was a stark lesson on how race and class can influence government response. And while crack might have faded from the headlines, the impact of those years is still being felt today. But before we can get to the current opioid and fentanyl epidemic, we have to quickly skim over the drug best known from a bald cancer patient with a chemistry degree. The meth epidemic, 1990s to present. If you thought Red Bull gives you wings, meth gives you freaking rocket boosters. It's cheap, it's easy to make, and it turns you into a jittery paranoid tweaker real fast. Meth, like everything else in this video, spread like wildfire, especially in rural areas where it became the go-to solution for anyone needing to stay up for days or just looking for a fun time. Before long, meth mouth and tweakers became common sights, and communities were left dealing with the fallout. The government's response cracked down on the ingredients. Suddenly, buying cold medicine felt like trying to smuggle pure Colombian. But despite the regulations, meth didn't go away, it just got sneakier. Hello? Hello, Doc. Yeah, funny story. Basically, everyone in my community, family, and all my friends and shit, you know, they got a nasty cold, so, you know, I'm gonna need, like, all your cold medicine, like every last bit, bruh. Sorry, you don't look very sick to me. Trust me, doctor. I'm a sick man. Now give me your fucking cold medicine or I'm gonna burn this freaking place down. Around the same time, there was also the prescription opioid epidemic, but the story there is basically the exact same as the opium one. Only difference being that this time it wasn't technically the government's fault, it was big pharmaceutical companies who convinced doctors that opioids had no side effects and could be prescribed out like Tic Tacs. Spoiler alert, these were some of the most addictive drugs in the universe, and comparable to Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, but you know, only like 1 or 2 stones. Now though, we're gonna talk about what happens when opioid Thanos gets all 6 Infinity Stones. The fentanyl epidemic, 2010s to present. Now we're in the 2010s, and if the prescription opioid epidemic was Infinity War, then fentanyl is endgame. Fentanyl is super potent, like 50 to 100 times stronger than morphine. A tiny amount can knock you out, and by knock you out, I mean send you to the gulag where you either clutch it or it's game over, bruh. The scary part, fentanyl is showing up everywhere, often mixed with other drugs like heroin or even cocaine, usually without the user's knowledge. Suddenly, what might have been a manageable, if still bad habit, has become a deadly gamble. One wrong hit, and you're dead. The government has scrambled to respond, focusing on harm reduction, distributing naloxone, an overdose reversal drug, and setting up safe spaces for users. But fentanyl keeps spreading, turning every drug purchase into a potentially fatal decision. The practice of meeting a stranger at the club and bonding over some pure Colombian is really dying out, man. All jokes aside, if the devil is real, then fentanyl is 100% his doing. Out of all the legit hardcore drugs talked about in this video, this makes them seem like some indica weed. Whoever sells fentanyl knowingly should be judged not as a drug dealer, but as a murderer with intent to kill. I'm grasping at straws here, but the only good thing that might come out of this is awareness about the dangers of drugs. And although teenagers are stupid, I'd hope that this crisis might push away would-be first-time drug users, as the chance of literally dying from doing anything is so likely these days, you might as well be playing Russian roulette. And now you have the full overview of American drug epidemics. What did we learn? Well, we might have learned a lot, and I don't know about the government though. Hopefully, I guess. Anyway, stay safe, and if you want to support me and the channel whilst getting some fire za, make sure you check out notcbdbro.com. Link for that will be in the description and pinned comments. See ya. The first high, a core memory, and whether you enjoyed it or not doesn't really matter, cause for 95% of people, their first time literally shapes their entire opinion on the grass. Almost everybody who isn't age 50 or over and says, weed is the work of the devil, and should be more illegal than even meth. Well, actually it is. The Zaza is Schedule 1 and meth is Schedule 2, so... Yeah, that's right. That's why I love America. Greatest damn country in the world.
USA! USA! USA!
Anyway, what I was saying was that most people who tweak their first time are put off by it for a while and shape into Zaza haters, and people who have fun their first time, believe it or not, don't all become mindless junkies who eat Little Caesars and watch SpongeBob all day. Rather, when asked their opinion on weed, they'll probably just say,
my stomach turned into an endless void with an unquenchable hunger for anything edible, which was followed by a sleepiness so uncontrollable I passed out halfway into my 25th Twinkie. It was pretty fun.
So obviously me, CBD bro, who runs an entire YouTube channel dedicated to the green plant, must have had the latter experience, right? Well, not really. As you see, when I was but a wee lad, uncontaminated by the forbidden fruits of the world like alcohol, nicotine, and yes, weed, always believed that alcohol makes you homeless, nicotine makes you a little bitch, and weed makes you lazy. Thinking that, I didn't want to waste not just my first high, but my very first time feeling anything besides normal on eating Doritos and watching Family Guy. Which, after turning 17, I decided it was about time I lost my substance virginity and planned to do so on Christmas dinner, where I was gonna let El Marijuana put its big, fat, thick, juicy, delicately rolled J in my mouth, but only after I had eaten, as I believed if my tummy was full, I wouldn't get the munchies and could instead contemplate the meaning of life my time high. And thankfully, I had an older brother who was more than willing to give me a puff or two from his Christmas dinner J for $4, the fucking cheapskate. So we went upstairs and started puffing, which Rezex was instantly bamboozled from the magic grass. Nice, it's not a dud. Now it's my turn. I grabbed the J and puffed until I could puff no more. And the result was, I didn't feel a damn thing. Still had to pay the $4 though. Fucking bullshit. Anyway, as we went through the day, I got increasingly more jealous of my brother, who by his words was fried AF. I was beginning to think maybe I'm immune to getting high, which after telling my brother this theory, he concluded that I'm stupid and just didn't inhale the Zaza in my lungs, and so generously told me to follow him upstairs, where he gave me a couple more puffs for an extra $4, the damn venture capitalist. As I was smoking away, keeping in mind to inhale it all the way down to my lungs, I still wasn't feeling anything, and my hopes of getting fried AF were beginning to look more like a distant dream. When I finished puffing, I sat down at the computer to look at some of those watch while high videos, and my brother asked me, so, you feel anything now? No, I don't. What's this weird I'm not sure. I don't know, seems to me you're fried like some Kentucky chicken, boy. I was indeed fried, and incredibly so. Although I didn't smoke a ton, my body had never experienced anything besides a sugar rush and maybe a caffeine kick. So as I was watching this watch while you're high video, I was laughing at everything and was tripping the out. But not in a bad way, it was freaking amazing. Being high was what I always imagined it to be until... bloop. I'm sober again. Yeah, you heard right. My first high lasted like 30 seconds, and in an instant, I was back to normal, which I don't know why. Even to this day, when I tell people about this, nobody can relate because no one has experienced this phenomenon. But since I'm a scientist, I have developed a super duper concrete theory backed by quantum mechanics and the late great Stephen Hawking on my experience, and overall the reason why a lot of people who smoke their first time don't feel anything. I theorize that all humans have a natural block against foreign substances, a wall per se, and when an individual inhales Zaza, the particles act kind of like micromissiles targeting your cannabinoid receptors. For the people whose defensive wall is strong enough, it will stop all perpetrators attempting to infiltrate your brain. But this wall isn't regeneratable, so if the micromissiles fail to get you fried at first, the next time they'll have an easier time against your already damaged wall of defense. Now, I bet you're thinking to yourself, this mofo been smoking too much of that Einstein pack. And to you, I say maybe, but also I have practical proof of this theory. I used to be a pro baller, and one day me and a couple hooper friends who all have great immune systems and therefore probably good Zaza defensive walls decided to smoke up, and to my buddies, it was their first time. Once we lit the J and passed it around, I made sure to tell everybody to inhale the smoke in their lungs, which I'm pretty sure they all did, but still, I was the only one who got high, cause it wasn't my first time. But when I smoked up with some of my non-athlete first-timer friends, they all got high like normal. So conclusion, defensive saw wall is a real thing and I stand by my theory. Anyway, although that was my first time feeling high, I wouldn't call it my first high because it only lasted for half a minute. My first real high experience was something even more memorable and etched to my brain until I die. A couple weeks after the last incident, me and Riz X decided it was about damn time I actually felt the true loving touch of the Mary Jane. And this time, instead of having only scraps of Za, we bought a whole gram to hopefully destroy my highly speculative Za wall. I think it's real. Also, at this time, we were obsessed with freestyle rapping, so we decided the plan of action was to smoke up, eat candy, and rap battle to copyright-free beats while recording it so we could listen to our unreleased tracks in the morning. Since our parents were away for the night, we got the whole apartment to ourselves and planned on rolling 2 J's, both containing 0.5 G's. Since we were petrified at the thought of getting caught blazing, instead of being sensible and smoking the J's near a window and just blowing the smoke out, we put our jackets on and walked 500 feet away from the apartment to light up, just to be sure that there wouldn't even be a microfiber of evidence that we were smoking the devil's lettuce. As we were consuming the J, all I could hope for was that this time I wouldn't just get a limited free trial, but the actual full version. But alas, when we finished puffing the J, I again felt nothing, or at least that's what I thought, cause as we arrived back home, I finally realized that, so you feeling it? Yeah, kinda. Sometimes the high hits you a couple minutes later, especially if you're going from outdoors to indoors as we did. And my highly accepted theory in the science community about this phenomenon is that through evolution, we have always considered indoors to be our safe zone and outdoors dangerous. Therefore, when you're outside, your brain doesn't allow the full faded and relaxed effect to take over, probably in anticipation of a roadman coming and chefing you up with the mandem. Okay, this one I'm not so confident in, and I have to come clean. I am in no shape or form associated with the science community. Yet. Anyway, now that we were high and in the living room, we started putting on some beats and freestyling, and to this day, I have yet to replicate the skill and precision of my flow that high. It's hard to explain, but nowadays, I can't rap for shit. I mean, I'll spit one line and be like, yo, I've been getting money making racks, cause you know I'm flipping packs. That's facts. Yeah, that's it. Basically, I run out of rhymes pretty fast, but that day, I did not. In fact, even when my brain had nothing to say, my mouth rapped it for me. I turned into a freestyling robot and became dead sure that I was gonna make it out by dropping a mixtape and becoming a famous rapper. Until we listened to the recording in the morning and realized, yo, flowing on the go, your girl she a hoe, making money dancing with a pole, my girl making dough while doing lines of blow, cause we in the penthouse, baby, living life, and that's for show. Yeah, I'll try YouTube instead. What's crazy though is that after that, I was never able to replicate the auto-rapping again, so my rap career never flowered. Suck up.
Mushrooms, truffles, call it psilocybin if you're a fancy pants, I don't care. But you will. You'll care about it deeply. You'll question your life. What have you done? Why are you here? What are you doing?
Snap out of it!
Look at your phone. What's the time? How much longer? What? What you just saw is what I like to call the mushroom experience. And I'm not talking about some Gordon Ramsay culinary dish. I'm talking about that fourth dimension. I'm talking about you being Neo sitting in front of Morpheus.
Choose to eat them, and you will see the truth of who you are. Discover your subconscious. Question things that you've just assumed were true. And if you navigate this path successfully, you'll emerge as...
But well, what Morpheus won't tell you is that if you don't accept the path of the fungus and fight your subconscious instead, you will not, and I repeat, not have a good time. In fact, I think it's safe to say you shouldn't ever tell anyone to eat mushrooms. It never works out. Either they just don't do it, or they feel like they gotta try it and end up just fighting demons for 3 hours, gaining nothing from the experience except more fear. That being said, for education, science, and the furtherment of mankind, I will be sharing my story to educate the public about the dangers of the unknown. So by continuing with this video, you acknowledge that you are strictly watching this for educational and entertainment reasons and will never recreate anything in the video. Please? Was that enough? We'll see, boy. Enter my friend Ricky. Me and him were chilling at his place when we got to talking. You see, I had previously just consumed some interdimensional fungus a couple weeks back and was kind of raving about how eye-opening it was. You know, the basic hippie shit. But Ricky was not buying it, which in my eyes made me feel like I gotta prove him wrong. Now, I think he was such an unbeliever because he's your typical Eastern European blue-collar, work hard, get hammered on the weekend type of dude. Not that there's anything wrong with that, just I wish I would have realized if your favorite thing to do is forget about all your worries and problems by getting drunk every weekend, then mushrooms probably won't be something you'll vibe with, especially if you low-key don't even want to do them. But regardless, I was all like, Ricky, my man, my main man, my brother from another mother. Okay, I get it. What do you want? What I want is for you to want to eat some mushrooms with me tonight. Eat mushrooms with you and talk about our feelings, or hit up Salamander, go to the club, get hammered, pull some baddies, and lay down the pipe. Tough choice. Well, let me translate that for you. Eat mushrooms, chill out, have fun, free of charge. Or hit up Salamander, spend over $100 on drinks and club entrance fees in hopes of pulling a baddie. With, well, so far your track record being 1 of 15, with the singular success being that fat bit. Okay, you made your point. Let's eat the stupid mushrooms. I probably won't feel them anyway. I had convinced my good old friend Ricky, or at least old friend, maybe not so good. Anyway, he was down to enter the land of mushrooms, and I was down with the plug who had some fungus on the low-low. Although I had promoted this event as free of charge, my financial situation disagreed. So I slowly leaned closer to Ricky and said,
"If we bar $20 to the mall."
With the funding for our mushroom experience now secured, I hit up Jimmy the plug god with, and now we play the waiting game. Any moment now. Finally. Yeah, 10G will run you about $100. Ricky, Richard, Rick Dog. You think you can spare an extra $30 for the homie? Fine. With further funding secured from our amazing sponsor, Rick Dog LLC, we ventured into our automobile to go and secure some Chungus fungus. And while we were driving there, I was all like, you know what I want to experience ego death? You get rich and pull hella hoes forever, right? That's stupid, but enlighten me, I guess. Okay, so hear me out. Why do individuals eschew the pursuit of their aspirations and the undertaking of risks, particularly when they are not constrained by socio-economic disadvantages? The answer lies in the nature of the ego, which harbors a fear of failure. This fear arises from a deep-seated concern that we may not be as intelligent or as capable as we believe ourselves to be. Consequently, the ego compels us to remain within the confines of our comfort zone, a realm in which we can entertain limitless potential without ever actualizing it. Damn, you really want to eat those shrooms, don't you? Perhaps. As we pulled up to the plug's addy and hunted him down, we completed our transaction and received a good amount of fungus, which I thoroughly inspected on the ride back and told Ricky the plan. No eating anything 2 hours before ingesting. Drink orange juice or anything sugary to end the trip faster. It takes about 30 minutes to kick and 2 hours to reach maximum overdrive. Any questions? Do they, taste okay? Like an expired can of organic dog shit. Nice. We'll eat it with chocolate, though. Great. We got back to the crib and sat down at the couch next to the table and got all our supplies like orange juice, chocolate, and water. Let's do this. I'm ready.
I can still feel the taste.
Yeah, that'll be like that for a while, but you know, let's take our minds off it with the new Plankton movie featuring SpongeBob.
It's on Netflix.
And so that's exactly what we did. Sat there in anticipation for the fungus to absorb, among us. It took a while, and the wait is always pretty anxious because you don't know when they gonna hit. I mean, it could be now. Better check my hands. No weirdness or fuzziness? What about the walls? The TV? Okay. Seem normal for now. Why is Plankton always plotting something?
Dude really got no chill, for real.
They were starting to kick, but the start is easy. When you're at that microdose level, it's basically like being faded. It isn't until a few dozen minutes go by that if you took some chungus fungus, you're about to start tripping balls, bro.
A few moments later.
Yo, bro, you watching the movie? Bro, I got no fucking idea what I'm watching. That's fair. Might have eaten too much.
Too much? Wait, you're telling me I ate too much?
No, not really. It just like could have taken less too, but what? No spiritual awakening then? Basically. Yo, I gotta get some fresh air. I feel like I can't breathe, man. Shit. Let's go outside then. You're getting me tweaking too, Rick Dog.
Stop calling me Dad. As with every mushroom trip I personally ever had, stage 1 was complete, aka the indoors part, and stage 2, the juicy part, was just beginning. The outdoors wanderer and ponderer. Thank God we did this in spring, cause personally I don't know if I could even handle going outside in the cold while on that Mario pack. Anyway, we walked around in our small town in the fresh air, basking in the glory of the sun, hoping that we don't see anyone we know and shit. What's up? Y'all trying to come to the club tonight?
Not gonna lie, me and Ricky are more fungus than Big Chungus, and Rick Dog is low-key. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. High-key tweaking out like an Oompa Loompa.
Damn! You two did mushrooms together? That's kinda gay, but well, you know, have fun.
No, don't leave me. Please, tree. You're all I have. Yeah, we will, yeah.
Ricky, come on now. The tree isn't leaving you. Let's go, get something to drink. So we moved on to the small grocery store in our neighborhood where, according to Ricky, we did not belong. He told me that it feels like everybody is staring at him, and although in my heart I knew that they weren't, the shrooms told me,
yo, this mofo Ricky's speaking facts.
Nah, bro, chill. You've been here enough to know that's not true. It's in your head, son.
Not to scare you, bro, but, you're screwed. The demons are approaching. Ricky? We gotta get out of here right now.
And so we did, with only one thing to show from our efforts, a container of OJ, which turns out does nothing. I mean, every smart shop owner in Amsterdam always says drink OJ to end the trip faster, but ChatGPT told me, nah bro, that's cap. Which I wish I didn't ask him that while on the fungus, cause now all hope was lost. I couldn't even tell Ricky to jug the orange juice, cause I knew it was a dud. The trip really started feeling like a weird nightmare, but I mean not so much because I was tweaking mostly cause Ricky was, and I feel completely responsible for that, cause, well, it was my idea. So I did the only thing I felt like I could. I apologized to Ricky for dragging him into Mushroom Kingdom, which he accepted and told me, it's not your fault, bro. And after that, it was like something clicked, and we finally started vibing, talking about what we were feeling and what we were thinking. Near the end of the shrooms, we were discussing our trip, and if Ricky regretted it, and he said, well, yeah, but not as much as he thought. Because although the first half of the fungus was spooky, the second half did give him some type of spiritual or mental awakening, per se. Not that Ricky was gonna do anything with that. He got wasted with Salamander the next day and spent $200 on drinks, pulling zero hoes in the process. Moral of the story is, magic fungus can make you feel more connected with yourself and your subconscious. Will eating it once with no clear goal or motive change your life? Absolutely not. Or at least, that's what I think due to my experience with Rick Dog.
For the last time, stop calling me that!
10,000 BC, a group of cavemen in the Oki Islands of Japan needed some warmth and wanted to start a fire when they discovered a funny looking green plant, and either out of curiosity or desperation took it and inadvertently created history's first ever hotbox. Yet this early grass was not that loud that people be smoking today, because as we know, over the years the Zaza has been scientifically and artificially cultivated to be much more concentrated in the high it gives. So although it is funny to think about a group of cavemen purposely starting a fire in a small shelter for the sole purpose of getting faded in a hoe, it is unlikely that it actually ever happened. Yet aside from this iffy recreational stint in Japan, hemp was first commonly used in the lands that are modern day Mongolia and China for more practical uses like eating it. Which, after saying that, you might be imagining something like this. Yo, what's up? How you doing? Had any fun with those new seeds I gave you?
Yo, nah, I actually came here to give them back. Last night I was looking at the moon and I swear that motherfucker was looking right back at me.
But alas, this probably wasn't the reality because the THC levels in this early cultivated Zaza were just really low, but soon the Chinese would discover that the holy plant's fibers were also great for making stuff too, like clothes, paper, and bowstrings. Which turns out hemp fibers were superior to the bamboo ones used by rivaling factions, allowing the Chinese to shoot their arrows much further. So basically, back in the day, if you were having a long distance bow battle and were losing, you might have screamed out, "We need to get closer! These motherfuckers have weed!" Anyway, it wasn't long after mofos realized that the loud wasn't only good for making stuff, it was also great for treating physical maladies. And after a couple thousand years, Emperor Chen Nung, known as the father of Chinese medicine, included the magic plant in his medical encyclopedia under the name Ma. Which, that sounds oddly similar to Za, doesn't it? I'm guessing every couple thousand years the first letter changes or something. But now, let's explore the question we're all asking. When exactly did mofos start ripping that shit to get faded? Well, one of the earliest counts is about 2,500 years ago, when researchers discovered 10 mini barbecues in a cemetery near modern-day Tajikistan that had residue of burnt cannabis with a much higher concentration of THC than normal, probably meaning it was selectively bred to get you, well, lit. Although this was one of the first counts of people purposely inhaling the broccoli to get high, it was most likely used as part of a ritual to invoke an altered state of mind so you could communicate with spirits.
Which shit, dog, I wanna know what these dudes were smoking, cause I ain't never heard of no grass that gets you to the spirit realm.
This might have low-key been the last kush Snoop Dogg smoked, cause once you get so high you start communicating with your dead gran-gran, that's when you really might be like,
okay, I think it's about time I stop smoking this shit.
Since cannabis, for one reason or another, proved to be quite the useful plant, people started trading it around the world as soon as it was domesticated. Which the only people who didn't really fuck with the Zaza were Europeans, who preferred getting hammered instead. Which is low-key reflected in modern times too, especially in the northern countries where once you turn 18, you can drink as much poison as you want, but if you want a blaze, well, you might be looking at a little bit of jail time, my boy. But now, let's quickly go over the uses of cannabis throughout different cultures so we can move on to the modern age, starting with Hindus. They made something called bang, an edible cannabis paste that had medicinal properties but also got you high. This could be added to a variety of foods and drinks, which this bang was the preferred food of the Hindu god Shiva, making him in my eyes the god of edibles.
Disclaimer, that was a joke.
Islam. Here the Za was called hashish and was introduced about 1,000 years ago, which hashish wasn't strictly forbidden in the Quran at first, so a lot of Muslims ate it for its medicinal and relaxation properties. But later, Egypt basically banned it, and also the Quran was revisited by many and reinterpreted to include hashish to be banned just like alcohol. The Vikings. These dudes basically used the Za to make rope, sailcloth, and other things, but also for its medicinal properties, mostly to relieve pain, and to date there's no hard evidence that they consumed it for its recreational use, but you know, maybe they should have, because they were quite the horrendous savages and murderers, so it might have made them think a little bit about peace and love. But what about America, England, and the actual global world powers? How did they react to weed? Well, again, like the Chinese, Europeans and Americans at first prominently used the magic green plant in the 16th to 18th century for more practical things like making sailcloth and rope, which the plant itself grew much larger in the New World soil, and combined with the practicality of it, everything started being hemp-derived. Clothes, paper, well, basically anything that required fibers. But the question still remains, when did mofos start smoking that shit to get blasted on the regular? Cause although at some point you, your neighbor, your grandma, your boss, and even George Washington were out here growing weed, wasn't nobody out here rolling them up. Well, until the arrival of Mexicans. The loud version of hemp first arrived in Brazil in the early 1500s by way of enslaved Africans traveling with the Portuguese. And the native South Americans, who are already consuming some other psychoactive substances, quickly started blazing the Zaza too, and its use soon spread across South America and into Mexico, from which in the 1910s is when the loud first spread into the US, via Mexican immigrants escaping the effects of the Mexican Revolution. And almost immediately the good was viewed as a threat, and by 1931, 29 states had banned its use. Although it wasn't really the Zaza that the US didn't fall with, it was unfortunately mostly just racism against Mexican Americans and black citizens of the South, which both these groups were enjoyers of the Zaza to some regard, so it became a scapegoat for racial bias in the US, and they blamed it for everything from petty crimes all the way to murder. And in 1937, the US completely banned all non-medical use of weed, which all of this kind of explains why the mostly peaceful plant has been thrown in the same Schedule 1 category with full-on life-destroying substances like heroin and cocaine. But thankfully, a couple decades later came the hippie movement of the 1960s to 1970s. This is what lightly sparked the comeback for weed, cause unlike before, when the Zaza was mostly smoked by Mexican immigrants and black citizens who the US was massively racist against, the hippie movement had middle-class white American youth start blazing too. Which it was all about love, peace, spirituality, non-violence, and of course, every hippie's favorite, recreational drug use. Although most hippies were all about peace and love, that was quite easy to say when most of them were literally privileged enough to drop out of college, run off with Cassandra in a rainbow van, go on copious amounts of mindset-altering trips, mostly powered by LSD, and then return 10 years later to their parents and have them say,
It's okay, son. I was young and stupid once too.
Anyway, although the grass was still federally illegal, this didn't really do much, cause in 1976, 1 in 8 Americans over the age of 12 admitted to smoking it in the past 30 days. Hippies though were especially interested in cannabis, so much so they went on something called the Hippie Trail, which was basically an excursion by the youths of the world to go over to the Middle East and India, all while riding in magic buses and discovering new ways to get absolutely blasted, such as smoking the concentrated Zaza resin known as hash. But acquiring the Zaza would soon get much harder, because you see, most of it came from Mexico, so in 1969 the US started patrolling the border, and in 1975 they got even more aggressive and started spraying herbicide on Mexican weed plants. And so good old supply and demand made grass prices skyrocket, which a lot of people started then growing the plant themselves in mini greenhouses, closets, bathtubs, storage units, basements, wherever they could. But then in 1982, Mr. Smarty Pants Ronald Reagan took it even a step further by encouraging the streamlined arrest of anyone in possession of an illegal substance, which was really dumb because most of the focus was on pot, all while crack, meth, and heroin were all still being transported and consumed on a regular basis. Even worse, this enforcement seemed to be racially motivated because despite plenty of traffickers and consumers being white, the majority of arrests were Latino and black youths, all while this bizarre over-focus on cannabis allowed the growing opioid epidemic to go unchecked. But thankfully, the US is slowly learning from their mistakes, where today 24 states have legalized the recreational use of marijuana. On top of that, the increased level of research on it has also found multiple medical use cases and can be prescribed to you by special doctors if seen fit. And although the Zaza is still federally illegal and a Schedule 1 drug, the overall perception of it has changed for the better, including in December 2022 when President Biden signed a bill to make it easier for researchers to obtain plants for their studies, which will hopefully accelerate the learning of positive and negative side effects of consuming the Za even further. But all that aside, the overall vibe towards the loud has gotten a lot more accepting, and these days more and more people view the smoking of the grass not as you being a junkie, but the same way as having a couple beers with the homies on a Friday night and watching some WWE.
We've all had a bad high before, and for some of us, we've had many. But what if I told you, you don't even know what that means? At least before you hear about the day I almost died while bugging off the Zaza. I woke up happier than usual because it was a special day. To be exact, it was my special day. My birthday. And I had planned a great celebration in my name. I was going to get wasted in my hometown with my old school friends. Because, well, I hadn't seen him in a long time, and I mean, I was turning 18, so you know your boy had to throw a killer party. Okay, to be honest, the party was pretty lame, cause my friends were either soy boys in a relationship or just plain gay, cause I told them multiple times, bring some hoes. The problem was, I had lost all my female connections in the area over the 2 years I was away, and they knew this. So how you gonna pull up to the party knowing your boy is back from the gulag and it's his birthday talking about,
Bro, where the hoes at? This party lame as hell.
bitch, I told you bring the hose, any hose, yet you come here with a 6-pack and a vape. What you talking about where the hose at? Look in the mirror, fool. You the hoe. You the hoe. Anyway, so we're just chilling at my lame party when my boy Ricky hits me up like,
Hey bro, I saw you in town again. Wanna smoke some gas?
and even though I do have an obligation to stay at my own birthday function, I decided to disband. Hey, everybody, thank you all for coming, but I'm gonna have to wrap this party up because it's getting kinda late.
Bro, it's 11 p.m. Party's just starting. Let's drink some more beers, eh?
Hey, it's only 11 p.m. Hey, let's drink some more beers. Get the fuck out of my house, Charles. So I get these soy boys out my house. Like, sorry, but if you can't even muster one single female on a 2-week notice to come to a house party, are you really even a man? But yeah, so here I am, half drunk, walking to the European version of 7-Eleven when I get a text from my boy Ricky.
Hey man, you wanna come roll with us on this drop-off? We can blaze up in the car on the way there.
And I don't really want to get involved with any dealings of illegal substances, but like, I was pretty much at the 7-Eleven already and really wanted to get lit. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I get to the parking lot and I see the most rusty ricer stolen from the junkyard looking car, blasting gangster rap from the speakers like it was a 50 Cent concert. I jump in the car and see my boy Ricky, but also 2 of my friends from elementary school. They discussing this business whilst me and Ricky blazing in the back, when I noticed the driver seems kind of off. So I asked Ricky, hey bro, is that man good? Seems a little off.
Yeah, no, he good. Just had a couple beers.
Bruh. So I just found out that the driver is a teensy bit drunk. But I'm already here and we're blazing, so what am I gonna do, leave? It was about 10 minutes of chatting and smoking when the time came to roll out. And bro, when I say this car was the biggest piece of shit that has ever grazed public roads, I'm not exaggerating. The freaking bottom of the car was vibrating and shaking so much, it felt like we was having an earthquake. And on top of it, the engine was making these clunking noises, and the exhaust was spitting fumes like it was 1920. Even though I was high as a kite, it wasn't just the Zaza making me paranoid, because this guy was driving like he was on a NASCAR track. But the one thing he did constantly that got me praying to our Lord and Savior was taking every corner and curb on the opposite side of traffic. Even though we lived in a small town and it was midnight, if even just one car would have been on those dark and twisty roads that day, it would have meant certain death for all of us. You know those moments where you're like, oh Lord, please, I will never hang out with these thugs again and I will never smoke the good. Just save me from this death. That was me, but like times 10 at least. Anyway, what felt like an eternity of driving, we got to the drop-off, and it was just some more wannabe thug gangsters interacting with our group of wannabe thug gangsters. That interaction took about 10 minutes until we started driving back, and I was just praying the whole way to whoever would listen. Gandhi, Buddha, Michael Jackson, Pop Smoke, Jiraiya, anybody and everybody. Somehow we got back in one piece. Can't say the same words about the car though, cause when we pulled up to the 7-Eleven again and he turned it off, it made a weird noise, so he tried activating the shitbox again and it wouldn't. So yeah, sucks for him I guess. So I say my goodbyes to the top thug gangsters of my hometown, and all I can think about is, bro, what the hell happened to my old homies? Everybody's either a soy boy or a drug dealer, no in between. Guess the moral of the story is, chase your dreams, I guess. Oh, and don't go into cars that look like they were last maintained in 1955, cause there's a good chance that this'll happen.
Do you smoke? A question that has been asked frequently ever since the early 1900s, but unlike the early 1900s where that question was mostly targeted towards cigarettes, these days, depending on your age and location of course, it probably means, do you enjoy sparking up a doozy at 8 p.m. to either watch Family Guy or ponder the meaning of life? no in between. Which, although smoking anything is harmful for us, I do believe we are moving in the right direction, aka the direction of less addictive cancerous chemicals. But don't get me wrong, Zaza is not good nor never will be good for your physical health, although one can make the argument for mental health, only problem being 90% of that stems from "I feel like it helps" or "I'm happier when I'm high," which in no way confronts the root of the problem, but rather serves as a temporary solution. But who am I to tell you if you're smoking too much weed, bruh? You have to figure that out yourself, because every situation is different. What I can and will do in this video though, is outline every level of cannabis consumption, how they may affect your health and life, and give you a better understanding of when and how a semi-unhealthy controlled hobby can turn into a straight-up addiction, to hopefully educate the public about the most important thing when it comes to anything in life: moderation. So let's start off with level 1. A casual. The casual is someone who smokes up only on occasions and almost exclusively with friends or family. At this level, you might be sparking up once or twice a month when a homie invites you over to hang out. And the reality is, you don't even really care about the weed part so much as the hangout part. You understand that smoking isn't good for you, but you also know the person you chill with likes to do so. And who are you to tell your friend how he or she should live his life? This is truly a wonderful level to be at, as being high is always eventful and joyful. Unless, you green out. Anyway, I think this is obvious, but at this stage, you don't have your own bud, bong, or really anything related to the za, as your homie always just hooks you up. Which, unfortunately, most of us don't have a friend like that, or used to, but have since leveled up to the point that they're the ones hooking the homies up. But we all know free za always hits better. It's just one of those things. Level 2. The weekend smoker. The weekend smoker is someone who has evolved from only getting high for the sake of being on the same wavelength as the homie to someone who has grown to enjoy the effects of marijuana even alone. But don't get me wrong, you are still aware that smoking is not healthy, but you also know eating Ruffles is not healthy, doom scrolling is not healthy, yet you still do them from time to time. Getting high has become something you look forward to, but since you're not smoking up every night, it's usually always accompanied with some activity you have in mind, aka I can't wait for Friday so I can smoke up and play Minecraft. I'm excited for Saturday so I can smoke up and watch Dragon Ball Super. Something like that. At this level, you're also definitely not smoking up frequently enough to start worrying about the financial implications buying weed comes with. At most, you're getting an eighth once a week and rolling a couple J's, or maybe if your friend was generous, he'll give you his old bong.
Protected with your life.
Personally, this is the level I have tried to stay at, but well, it's kind of hard because at this point you have your own weed, and if you're doing something fun at night, it kind of tempts you to do it, well, high. And once you give into that temptation, you'll move up to level 3. The daily reward. You've come to really enjoy your weekend highs, so much so that you've decided, screw it, it's Tuesday, there'll be no hangover like with alcohol. Yeah, I'ma smoke up. I would consider this level the last one where you can still say you are not addicted, just really enjoy hanging around while high. The only problem being, weed has become an integral part of your routine, which has removed some of the wonder that accompanied it in the previous levels. As before, being faded got you moving extremely irregular, but since irregular depends on your perspective of regular and you're pretty regularly high, your actions while under the influence, although still fun, don't make you feel that, oh shit. Where I'm going with this is that before the idea of doing your daytime activities while high seems scary, now they kind of seem like they might be a bit more fun instead. Also, you now know about strains, hybrid, indica, sativa. All these terms mean something to you. You might even have multiple strains at the crib, and depending on your nighttime mood and plan, you'll indulge in the one that suits you best. Whether you're looking to unwind after a long day or energize for a night out, there's a perfect strain to match every occasion. But don't get me wrong, you're still using the za as a sort of reward for a hard day's work to relax and chill, so you still have self-control, which, well, kind of starts fading on level 4. Gee, why not? Why not, you think? I ain't really got nothing much to do anyway, I'll just do a quick rip and make it more enjoyable. Getting high during the day can be a slippery slope, cause once you do, you'll realize that, wow, this is kind of fun. and so you might start dedicating your sativa stash to your daytime adventures, but there is a catch, a rather steep price you must pay when you reach this level. Because you are now high during the day, smoking up at night loses that reward factor it used to have. You're slowly getting to the point where the feeling of normality is being faded, and due to that, getting high at the end of your day is just standard procedure, not your special fun time, if you get what I'm saying. Another huge difference that comes at this level is of course your tolerance, which has gone way up along with your money spent on weed, and to counteract those, you have had to start buying in bulk, so instead of eighths, you now have ounces. But holding so much bud is a double-edged sword, as having over an ounce available at any given time also messes with your sense of how much you're actually smoking. Whereas one full bowl of bud taken from a grinded eighth visibly decreases the amount you have left, a full bowl taken from a grinded ounce seems like nothing, which all of these things compound, kinda like the stock market. You're taking bigger and bigger hits each day, which most people would start to realize that at this point, it's kinda hard to label your Zaza destruction as a controlled hobby when you're not just high during your night goblin time, but also your daytime, and start lowering your consumption. But if you are not most people and still believe that you are in control, you'll move on to level 5. Zaza Fiend. A cigarette smoker can smoke a pack a day, which is not so good for your lungs. A Zaza Fiend can smoke 5 to 10 J's a day, which is also not so good for your lungs. Whereas before, you could point to that cigarette smoker and say, "You smoke the same amount in a day that I do in a month. We are not the same." Now you point at him and he points right back, which kinda sucks, not gonna lie. Being high has completely lost its wonder. It's more a monthly subscription to live your life normally and be in an alright mood now. You'll start to notice you got a bit of a cough. You got some stuck at the back of your throat pretty often, and you also can't remember what you did 2 days ago and beyond.
Oh no, I was high as balls.
You say jokingly, holding back your tears, because the reality is you weren't high as balls. You smoked a lot of weed, yes, but you weren't all that high, just normal high. Although you can't really get physically addicted to weed, you absolutely can mentally. I can quit at any time, you might think, and you could maybe, but oh boy, it will not be easy. Wanna play a game? Gotta get high. Wanna watch a movie? Gotta get high. Need to go to the store? Might as well get high. Everything is done high. Your lungs have not gotten a break to cleanse themselves, and your brain has not gotten a break either. In fact, it has gotten so used to being high, it feels pretty shitty without it. We could talk about your tolerance, but well, you probably know where that's at. On that maxed out endgame plus level. Personally, I've only ever gotten this far once, back when I was in high school and it was summer break, because I learned pretty quick that, well, it's by far the worst level to be at. You're smoking an insane amount, sometimes even back-to-back bong rips, but the feeling you get from it is not even that fun. On top of that, you're spending an unholy amount of money on bud. I mean, it's gotten so bad, your monthly Zaza costs might literally exceed your grocery budget. Got you setting aside half your paycheck just so you can feel okay. Might be time for a tea break, don't you think? All these levels are supposed to just give you a reference to where you're at, and the reality is you'll probably be bouncing around them, not stick to one forever. I usually try to keep my consumption on level 2 or 3, but that doesn't mean I don't dabble with the 4th level from time to time when, like, I don't know, a new Monster Hunter game comes out and I want to fully immerse myself in its world by getting an ounce of Zaza, locking myself in my gaming dungeon and going into goblin mode for a week. Just whatever you do, don't ever get to the last level. There's literally nothing positive about that place. Key takeaway, moderation is your best friend.
The Plug, a holy being that will always be there for you, especially when you don't need him, and also occasionally when you do. And because I don't live in the fancy America, where all the big vloggers and TikTokers are, I still rely on the Plug for my Zaza. But after years of buying from different plugs, I always wondered how much money do these guys actually make, and what are the requirements to be successful in the profession? Well, finally, after the introduction of a new, scientifically enhanced type of grass, HHC, I kinda got the answer to these questions, and I'ma be honest with you, it ain't what I expected. As I said before, it all started with the introduction of the so-called new and improved ZA, HHC. And because it was new and regulations had not been set, even in my Stone Age country where an 18-year-old can buy a liter of vodka and drink himself to death, or just get hammered and get the sudden urge to call out the 6'5" undefeated heavyweight MMA fighter at the club because, well, when he sees red, bodies start dropping. Anyway, since this was legal and I am a law-abiding citizen who wouldn't even dare to jaywalk, I thought to myself, this is the perfect moment to see what being the plug is all about. Furthermore, because most dudes in this country don't know anything about strains, hash, bud, and just take whatever the plug has, I didn't need to worry about people thinking I scammed them. Also, your boy conducted a thorough inspection of this new product, using only the most delicate and scientific tools possible. Oh, okay, I hit that shit through a Red Bull canning. It kicked pretty nicely, so I dubbed it Verified Lab. After securing half an ounce of the Verified Lab, which is 14 grams in European tongue, I went to work on finding customers. And obviously the best place to start is on Snapchat. So I took a picture of the Zaza with the caption, 15 bucks per gram, hit me up. Which is a steal, because, well, it sold for 20 a G here. And unfortunately, I only got one sale, cause I guess most of the people who I knew smoke Verified Lab were plugs themselves and knew of the existence of HHC and that it's like 6 bucks a gram. But I was still determined to flip them packs and make them racks, so I hit up the most trustworthy plug I knew who actually had people in his contacts who smoked Verified Lab, but were not in the business of trapping themselves. After a thorough business meeting where we may or may not have smoked the grass ourselves, he conducted that the gas I had was indeed worthy of the title Verified Lab, and offered to buy it all for 12 bucks a gram, which, I mean, I got it for 8.5, so I obviously said yes. At first I thought that was all. I made a nice profit of about 40 bucks and was feeling good. But after about 2 days, I got a message from the plug I conducted business with reading, "Bro, that shit sold out quick. Can you order more? I think I can actually sell this stuff for 25 a G, cause people want the same stuff real bad." Now, I think you are currently pondering two questions. Why didn't he just order more himself? And how the hell did these dudes not know it was HHC? Well, the reason he didn't order more himself is quite simple. He is a full-time OG plug, so dudes does not have a bank account to order stuff. And to answer the second question, I truly don't know. I couldn't really believe it myself, but I guess most owners really don't give a fuck about news and staying up to date with it. In the words of the great plug himself, these dudes just wanna get as up as possible. They don't know nothing about no THC, HHC, CBD, BBC, NBA, MMA, nothing. Anyway, it all sounds great, right? Everybody loves the Verified Lab and are willing to pay premium for it. Plus, it's all technically legal and I don't even need to sell it myself. Well, it would have been, but there were two problems that made it a bit more sketch. You see, the issue with HHC is that it's a chemically produced product. All it actually is THC with a couple extra hydrogen molecules. And through thorough research, both practical and scientifical, I found out that HHC is very unstable in nature, meaning one patch of the same strain can truly be Verified Lab. But then the next patch made with the exact same Zaza and same way could be some whack leftover Reggie. It's because it's very hard to control how well this hydrogen molecule binds to the THC, and not financially worth it to control the potency of each patch. So you could order that shit once and get some damn moon rock, or like the first experience I had with HHC, get some damn oregano. And the second problem was the plug I was conducting business with didn't want that risk all to himself, so I would have to cover the upfront costs of the HHC and then give it to him where he would hopefully flip it for 25 bucks a G, which I would receive 15 bucks a G and him 10. So here I was with quite the pickle of a conundrum. Should I order a whole ounce of HHC, which by buying an ounce you get the best price per gram, but I risk it being whack Reggie? Or should I just order a fourth, therefore lowering the risk of getting whack product, but also lowering the profit margins? And the conclusion I arrived at was the best of both worlds. I ordered half an ounce just like before. After receiving the good, I gave half of it to the trustworthy OG plug and waited for that passive income to roll in. But unfortunately, it was as I feared. The stuff I got this time was still good and solid, but it just wasn't the Verified Loud I received before. So the OG plug was having trouble marketing it as premium Zaza and lowered the price to the industry standard 20 bucks a G. But unfortunately, dudes were catching on as well, and some of them refused to buy the Zaza cause they could just order it online. Like, yeah, you can, but wouldn't you rather buy from your friendly neighborhood plug?
I guess not, cause after a couple days, the OG plug sent me another message. Yo, this stuff ain't moving like before, and people catching on about the origins. I have half of the stuff left. If you want, I'll buy it out for 10 bucks a G, or just return it to you. Which I hesitantly chose the first option, so I had him just buy it out. Yet, there was still the issue of the 7 Gs or so I had left, which I initially planned on flipping, but was unfortunately unable to, cause mofos knew I got that shit for pennies compared to the asking price. So I did as all plugs would do and dubbed the leftover HHC as my personal stash, and just started blazing my own product, which was kinda stupid in hindsight because a couple weeks after, HHC was illegalized, as we all knew it would be, and became a rarity in the Zaza industry. Which mofos started flipping that shit for 30 bucks a G, like goddamn, it ain't even that different from normal Zaza. Anyway, by the end of it all, I made a bit under $100 in profit, or in another metric, about 10 Gs of Zaza, which I smoked myself. So really the conclusion to my plugging experience was I got free grass, which was a bit underwhelming cause I was hoping to become the local Pablo Escobar, if you know what I mean. Moral of the story is don't get high off your own supply, or at least if you want to be a businessman. Oh, and also don't sell illegal things, cause well, this HHC was legal, so I could have technically flipped it on Facebook Marketplace or something. Greening out or getting too high is the worst thing that can happen when inhaling that freshly cut grass. If you have a sudden emergency or miscalculate the size of the portion, things can turn south real quick. One moment, you're chilling in your room having the time of your life playing Minecraft or some shit. Next thing you know, the green forcefully teleports your brain into a realm filled with the demons of your nightmares. And once the grass pushes you over that border, it ain't no easy task to get back to Yodi land. But not to worry, for D who masters the green out, masters the universe. Okay, well that's kind of an overstatement, but nah, for real. If you want to learn how to never green out again, then you're in the right place. Cause being that I do have a PhD in spliff rolling, a master's degree in avoiding bad trips, and a bachelor's in high thoughts, I am more than qualified to teach you the ways of the Zaza. First things first, what are the symptoms of feeling too high? Well, the Cambridge Dictionary describes greening out as greening out is a term described as being so goddamn high that you start tweaking like a schizophrenic that hasn't taken his pills for a week. The symptoms of this state include dry mouth, anxiety, paranoia, thinking of that one time you should have done that one thing a little bit differently, etc. As we can see, greening out is obviously not a pleasurable experience, and to know how to counteract this phenomenon, we must analyze the 3 main types of greenouts. Number 1. The pure Kush coma greenout. Starting with the good old Kush coma. Being one of the most commonly occurring greenouts, it can be caused by many factors like overestimating your tolerance, smoking an unexpectedly strong strain, or the one I have seen the most, not correctly gauging the situation and how much fatedness it requires/allows. So let's say you're gonna be going over to a small little function with a couple of your buddies. Now, if the goal of said function isn't to all unifiedly test the boundaries of high, then I wouldn't recommend hogging the spliff in the rotation for too long, cause you best believe when everyone is chatting and having a good time and you're just laying on the couch like a sloth, you'll be wishing that you were a little bit more generous in the prior rotation. Plus, the guy who falls asleep first is always the one who gets clapped.
Hey, remember that cursed movie you watched as a kid?
Yeah, that was stupid.
Yeah, it was. But you're enjoying this Zaza too much lately, so I'm just gonna make your brain think that it was real, so you get real spooked and can't sleep all night. That cool?
What? No!
Okay, bye.
So, the last and rarest one. Number 3. The situational greenout. Even though this one doesn't happen often because most people who decide to get faded into Universe 7 plan out a safe area where they can enjoy the grass in comfort. All that being said, however well you plan, there is always the chance of an urgent mission popping up. And I mean, what can you really do when, I don't know, your homie's about to be jumped by a ragtag bunch of 13-year-old UK roadmen? The only correct answer is you gotta get your baked ass up from that couch you've melded with, pull up on the situation, and handle it like a man.
Could you guys stop calling my friend the waste man, whatever that means?
Man, shut up, blood, before you get chinged by the mandem, plotty waste man in it.
What? I'm not a waste man, okay? And I can see we're not getting anywhere, so I'm gonna go now.
ching him up.
Okay, well, you're probably not gonna be in situations exactly like that, but you get what I mean. Now that we've learned about all the types of green outs, how do we counteract them? Well, if I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't have that master's degree in avoiding bad trips, although the spliff rolling one was not a lie, and therefore I did nothing wrong. By Prime Energy. But it's rather simple. To avoid the kush coma, don't smoke as much kush. The anxiety green out can easily be avoided with basic strategies, so if you're going to a place filled with new people, it's probably not the best idea to hit that double Benjamin. And the last one, well, can't do nothing about that. Just hope you don't get chinged, I guess.
Smoke weed every day. To some, this is their mantra, and to others, it is just something they said in 4th grade to sound cool, along with, of course, bitch getting money. But did you know, smoking weed isn't just some 21st century trend where after COVID everyone just realized, man, this sucks. Yo, did you hear? The lockdown is ending next week. We finally get to leave our rooms. Man, this sucks. No. People have been getting high off that homegrown natural supply for decades, centuries, dare I say millennia. And over these countless years, a lot of the people who shaped our history also shaped finely ground botanical matter tightly packed within a thin, often translucent paper forming a perfect tube. AKA a joint. I'm saying they smoked weed, okay? Anyway, some of these people we can confirm to have consumed the Lord's loud, and the others we, well, unfortunately just have suggesting evidence for. And one will be complete speculation by me, which, try and guess which one of them is which, I'll also tell you at the end of the video. First up, William Shakespeare. The idea that William Shakespeare may have smoked cannabis stems from findings in the early 2000s where scientists discovered pipe fragments in Shakespeare's garden. These pipes contain traces of cannabis, among other substances. While there is no direct evidence that Shakespeare himself used cannabis, the presence of these compounds has led to speculation about whether he might have experimented with that top-shelf Zaza. This theory is further fueled by some interpretations of his writings, such as in Sonnet 76 where he mentions invention in a noted weed, which some suggest could be a subtle nod to using weed as a source of creative inspiration. However, these are only speculations and there's no conclusive evidence to confirm them. Me, however, have no doubt in my mind that that man at least once in his lifetime got faded than a hoe. I mean, they found signs of cannabis among other substances, suggesting to me that one of Shakespeare's friends like Thomas Green or James Burbage once brought Shakespeare some weed not knowing what it was, and after getting high, Shakespeare was all like, to be or not to be, got rich and famous, and then went his entire life trying to find more weed, hence the other substances found in that pipe. But hey, that's just a theory, a high theory. But now, let's talk about Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria might not be the first person you'd imagine puffing on a joint, but history has its surprises. Back in the Victorian era, our dear Queen was quite the savant when it came to pain management. Prescribed cannabis by her royal physician, Sir J. Russell Reynolds, Victoria reportedly used it to relieve menstrual cramps. This makes her one of the earliest known VIPs of the medical marijuana club, proving even monarchs need a little herbal relief now and then. No word on whether it made court affairs more amusing, but one could certainly hope. Although this one is proven to be true, unlike Shakespeare, it isn't quite as, well, entertaining is the right word, I guess, as there really is no proof that she ever smoked that OG, just put a few drops under her tongue. Did she ever have the munchies? Did she ever get intentionally high before, let's say, a play to make it more enjoyable? I guess we'll never know. One can only ponder about the royal rotation. George Washington. The $1 bill. America's first president and perhaps its first agricultural innovator in the realm of hemp. In his days, tending to the vast fields of Mount Vernon, Washington got quite savvy with his crops, particularly hemp, which was used primarily for industrial purposes like making ropes and fabrics. But here's a little historical nugget. Washington wrote about separating male from female hemp plants. Now, to the untrained eye, this might just seem like good old farming, but those in the know might wink at the idea that George was onto something more recreational. I mean, why else fuss over female plants known for their higher THC content? Well, there's no smoking gun or smoking pipe, as it were, to prove he partook himself. It does raise eyebrows, and maybe even a few smiles at the thought of the father of his country partaking in a bit of the herb. Of course, there are some other reasons why George could have wanted to separate female plants from male ones, but I just can't imagine being so into weed farming and not even once being curious enough to smoke it. Can you? Probably not. So conclusion, I think he smoked. You think he smoked? he smoked. Herodotus. Often dubbed the father of history, he had quite the knack for detailing the quirky habits of ancient cultures. In his tales, he mentions the Scythians, a group that really knew how to throw a smoky party. They weren't just tossing burgers on the grill, but were burning cannabis seeds to whip up a bathhouse-style smoke fest. Imagine this, ancient warriors chilling in felt tents, getting secondhand highs from hotboxing with hemp. Which leads us to Alexander the Great. Some cultures around his empire used cannabis, such as the Scythians, who, as I mentioned earlier, Herodotus noted used it in steam baths. However, there are no records or indications that Alexander himself used cannabis. His conquest did bring him into contact with many different peoples and cultures, so it's likely he was aware of various herbal practices. However, connecting him directly to cannabis use is, well, fight on! Light on. Unlikely. Louis Armstrong. The jazz virtuoso with a trumpet and a grin as wide as the Mississippi had a special relationship with gauge, his preferred term for marijuana. Armstrong wasn't just casual about his cannabis. He considered it essential to his music and well-being. He famously said that it made him feel good, didn't make him mad, and that he couldn't forget it even if he tried. So integral was marijuana to his routine that he wrote to President Eisenhower advocating for its legalization. We always looked at pot as a sort of medicine, a cheap drunk, and with much better thoughts than one that's full of liquor. Wise words if I do say so myself. For Armstrong, weed was a part of the jazz lifestyle, keeping him cool in the face of the era's hot prejudices and even hotter jazz clubs. Carl Sagan. The Cosmos' personal tour guide was not only fascinated by the stars, but also by the starry effects of marijuana. Under the nom de plume, Mr. X, aka Sagan, extolled the virtues of weed in an essay that spoke of it as both a source of profound philosophical insights and a simple pleasure. He argued that cannabis had a remarkable power to enhance curiosity, appreciation for art, and sensory experiences, essentially deepening the user's connection to the universe. His private use of cannabis was a tool for scientific meditation and personal enlightenment, a kind of mental spacecraft exploring the uncharted territories of the human mind, all while maintaining a vigorous career in astrophysics. What a G! His appreciation for weed was not just about enjoyment, but also an intellectual pursuit, adding a layer of contemplation to his stargazing. This one is one of my favorites because it really just proves that weed doesn't make a hardworking person lazy, it makes a lazy person lazier. And in the case of Mr. X, no, not you Elon Musk, Carl, it's awesome to see an advocate for weed that isn't a rapper or a retired athlete, but an esteemed astrophysicist. No, not you either, Neil deGrasse Tyson, we all know how smart you are. Final person on our list, and the most prominent in Zaza use. Everything he described makes sense to me, as although I'm not hippie enough to say my Zaza destruction is due to me wanting to deepen my connection to the universe, I do however prefer to play No Man's Sky high as ball. Do you remember 2018/19 when kids were puffing Juuls like they were the new and improved oxygen? Then around the same time we had mofos slinging black market boof, carts, and dispos, which led to thousands of people hospitalized and tens dead. Basically, the Juuls screwed kids long term, trying their best to get the new generation addicted to Nick, and the black market boof dispos were out here stacking kills short term like the match was about to end and they were one off the nuclear. What a crazy time to be alive. Thank God they regulated that stuff now, and it's starting again. Yeah, so I don't know if it's just me, but I've been seeing a bunch of videos about stuff like the shroom vape, the DMT cart, a freaking opioid vape. Although this stuff isn't a widespread pandemic yet, it's still crazy to see how far some people will go to make a couple bucks. Like, bro, just sell grass. Anyway, today we're gonna go over the absolute most stupid and dangerous vapes that are being flinged online, on the streets, or even smoke shops, so you can watch out for them and hopefully tell the dude selling them to stop it and get some help. As an extra disclaimer, do not under any circumstances ever try these. They are unregulated as fuck, and I bet most of them are tested by a toddler with a chemistry kit, if at all. This video is purely educational and is here to serve you as an informative warning, so if you ever spot these horrid creations, you can run away as fast as possible, which especially applies for the last one on the list. Anyway, first up, the mushroom vape. I, along with over 1 million people, learned about the shroom vape from a scientist called Goblin, who made a video about it where he even tested it and analyzed the lab test results, where the conclusion was that it's filled with a bunch of random substances and definitely not a mushroom vape. That's because the active compound in mushrooms, psilocybin, that makes you high, literally cannot be consumed from a vape, as psilocybin breaks down when heated. So what exactly are you smoking when using the shroom vape? Well, who knows? It should be 4-ASO DMT, a lab-made cousin of shrooms, which turns into psilocin in your body, or something entirely different. Could be DMT, could be sadness in liquid form, you just don't know, and the creators of the thing are probably as clueless as the consumer. And although when Goblin tried it, he didn't feel anything besides a minor head rush, you might not be as lucky. Because of how ratchet these things are, I can't rule out the possibility that you might smoke it once, feel nothing, then pass it to your friend who takes one puff and gets psychosis for a month. We just don't know, which is why I made this list. You're basically trusting some rinky-dinky home chemist with something as complicated as your brain's chemistry. Absolute best case, you get something similar to a mushroom trip. Likely case, you feel nothing, and worst case, you're brain dead. So if you ever see a shroom vape in your local smoke shop, make sure you ask the clerk what's in it, and if he says mushrooms, you know he is a liar and kind of a scumbag. Find a new spot. Next one is probably the least dangerous one on the list, like long term, but short term, it's a bit too convenient for what it does, and oh boy, it does a lot. It is the DMT vape. Why I say this one is the least dangerous is that unlike the shroom vape, which literally just cannot exist because psilocybin isn't smokable, DMT is, so at least you're getting what is advertised. Well, actually, considering to get your hands on this, you either need to buy from a plug or a sketchy smoke shop, it could also just be fent. Anyway, why I still believe this is dangerous is that coming from someone who has tried DMT, although not like physically addictive, that shit leaves you staggered like a freaking flashbang, bro. And having something like that ready to smoke 24/7 in the palm of your hand looking like a USB stick, I just don't see that ending well for the majority of people. Like, bro, I've done my share of psychedelics, but DMT is like a portal to another universe. I mean, if you really puff that stuff, you're out of it. Dunsies, bozo. And the thing with having it in a dispo is that they tend to be inconsistent. Like, you can do one puff, feel nothing, do one more, and you're on the moon discussing philosophy with Rocky Balboa. Also, just think about this. Ancient shamans spent days fasting to meet the cosmic machine elves. You met them while sitting on your toilet scrolling TikTok. Kinda defeats the whole purpose of the stuff if you ask me. But well, if you're getting it from a trusted source, at least you can comfort in the fact that you're not smoking some Breaking Bad science experiment like with the shroom vape. Anyway, there's still 2 insane and dangerous vapes left, and they're gonna get really messed up from here, bro. So get ready to be baffled at the dark side of capitalism with the ketamine vape, or K-Pods. Don't get K-Pods mixed up with K-Pop. One is a schedule-free anesthetic abused by many to feel numb, detached, and probably listen to some weird-ass music. And K-Pop, well, you know what K-Pop is. Anyway, I don't think I have to explain to you why having a ketamine vape is not a good thing, as most people, including myself, are instantly put off by a drug that's main way of digestion is snorting it into your nose, which, unless you live in Wall Street, is the first sign of becoming a drug fiend. But with the invention of the K-Pod, or ketamine vape, we have made the barrier of entry much easier. I know my dumb teen self would have maybe even considered trying this stuff if I knew I could just inhale it from a vape. Which is all the reason I need to put it on the list. Like, what's next? The crack pen? The Molly cart? The heroin juice? Probably shouldn't have said that. I'm already imagining the seller of one of these things having this notebook out like, he said crack pen? Interesting. Hey John, any loophole we can use to sell crack on Amazon? And well, I guess I'll just quickly go over the side effects of ketamine abuse, which the most famous one is obviously K-bladder. This is still 100% a thing, vape or not. Ketamine is ketamine. Vaping doesn't save your bladder from chronic exposure. Long-term heavy use can cause constant need to pee, pain, bleeding, bladder shrinkage, requiring surgery in severe cases, cognitive damage, memory issues, attention problems, disassociation leakage, feeling floaty even when sober, and more. Overall, I'd say that K-Vape is a disgrace to humanity and the wonderful people who created the technology that make this stuff possible, because they probably didn't intend for the next generation to fling something called K-Pods. But now for the final vape that, unlike the previous ones, is actually pretty widespread and, in my opinion, the most dangerous. The opioid vape, or 7-0. This is what happens when someone looks at kratom, which is already addictive on its own, and thinks, what if I removed all the plant matter, concentrated only the part that matters, and then made it vapable? Congratulations, that's 7-hydroxytrick, the main active opioid metabolite of kratom, and the real punch behind kratom's mild tea facade. And unlike the shroom vape, which the scientist Goblin tried to basically no effect, after smoking the 7-0 vape, he almost instantly felt his body get heavy and his mind get foggy. He compared his free puffs to taking half a Xan, which is pretty insane considering there is a lot more than free puffs puffs in those things. The case that the companies selling this stuff try to make is, oh well, it helps recovering opioid addicts, which okay, fair, but then they go right ahead and market the stuff as the new Quaaludes or party pills, which I forgot to mention they're also sold in pill form. Never do they mention the fact that 7-0 binds up to 13 times stronger to your brain's opioid receptors than morphine, which in fact makes it way stronger. The worst part is smoke shops are making bank with these products, and do you think it's from recovering opioid addicts? Hell no. For kratom, which is like the natural opioid, I can see how you'd make a case for it as a recovery drug, but 7-0, although marketed as natural, is found in very small amounts in kratom, and then they use a chemical reaction to synthesize more of it, with the end result being a quote-unquote natural opioid up to 13 times stronger than morphine. Sounds legal, right? For real though, how this stuff is legal and sold in smoke shops, I do not know. One thing I do know is that the people who sell this stuff are scumbags and stay the hell away from it at all costs, because it's one of those things that you can try once and get hooked instantly, and the withdrawal symptoms are so bad people have needed medical help to get off the stuff. So yeah, if I had a magic wand imbued with the power of the Supreme Court and Congress, and I could only wave it once, I'd ban 7-0, as from what I understand, this is by far the most widespread substance on this list, and also the most dangerous.
Blazing with people is a lot different than blazing alone, because whereas being alone, you can just let your mind drift to wherever, if you're with others, you have to, well, at least you should, understand the general vibe and direction of the convos and interactions. Unfortunately, however much you might try to be unbiased, you will discover that there are certain people you will want to smoke with again and will always be invited to the sesh. But then there are also dudes who, after you get faded with once, will leave you contemplating if you ever want to consume that za in a social setting again, or at least with new people, cause you never know if the new guy will be the dude who gets way too intense about everything. Nobody likes this dude, and for a reason. When mofos is faded, they just wanna chill and be happy, but this gremlin finds it necessary to express his deepest resentment or strongest belief in his personal opinions. The group could be talking about some chill like the fragrance of the ocean or the beauty of the sun, and this dude will start spitting out shit like, man, what a day to get lit. No clouds, sunlight on the skin, it's warm, just great. Yeah man, you're right. What a time to be alive.
You do know about global warming, right? The day we are having is just a byproduct of the disaster that is about to overtake our planet.
Yeah, I know, but shit, I ain't worrying about all that right now. I'm just enjoying the moment, you know?
Well, you should be. Do you know that people like you are the reason why this is all happening? People who don't care and just do whatever they please.
Hey man, chill. I recycle. Plus, I don't even be driving that much, man. I just be walking around.
Whatever. You do you. Just know you're a part of the problem, not the solution. Like I am. I'm like a part of the solution. I'm really cool.
Like screw you, man. Learn to read the room, Mr. I think like this and therefore you must too. But switching things up, the next guy on the list is someone you definitely want in the sesh. The dude who knows a bunch of random but interesting stuff. Bro, I always enjoy it when a dude like this is in the sesh. Instead of pushing some agenda like the previous guy, he always just adds to the convo in a meaningful and interesting way. Like mofos could be talking about some History Channel shit, and this dude would be knowing all the facts and details. He pretty much like the sesh version of Google, but instead of giving you long paragraphs, he hits you with stuff like, guys, even though it's called World War II, it was only fought in Europe. So why it ain't called Europe War II? What? Nah, but real, I could make a whole video on the stuff I've heard from dudes like this. But the next guy is more of a hit or miss. The dude who rarely smokes. Now, this man either folds under the pressure of the za and just sits quietly observing everybody like an owl, or instead he becomes one with the za and becomes a conduit of it, allowing words to flow from the holy plant itself. Plus, I swear, laughter is contagious, and if a dude like this is feeling comfortable, he always 100% of the time finds everything hilarious, and that good vibe rubs off on everybody, boosting everyone's giggles by a good 25%. But as I said, he kind of a hit or miss, so if he doesn't allow the za to flow through his veins, he'll just sit there quietly giggling by himself like Gollum or something. Yet, you shouldn't hold it against him, cause I think we've all been there, overwhelmed by the power of the green magic. But this next guy is the exact opposite and the universally hated dude at the sesh. The fool who hogs the
No one likes a greedy spliff hogger, especially if he himself did not bring any to the sesh and is just riding on the other's hard-earned Zaza. The excuse this dog always has is,
My tolerance is much higher than all yours, so in reality, we're all getting the same amount.
and I mean, yeah, technically, but still, that's on you. If you haven't been managing your tolerance and been abusing the Za to the point you need to smoke the whole spliff of premium backwood to feel something, then you better bring extra stuff to the sesh. And if you can't afford it, well, start a GoFundMe or something, you goddamn parasite. Shit's pissing me off just thinking about it. But this next guy definitely won't piss you off. In fact, when this dude is rumored to be at the sesh, it's always a must-go. I'm talking, of course, about the plug. Now, you might be wondering, why is this guy so great? Why is it a must-go when he is at the sesh? Well, the answer to that is, he is the plug, and therefore has a shitload of Zaza, and the best part being, it's usually all free. Bro, I've smoked with the plug many times, and they always bust out that exotic stuff for everybody to enjoy. And honestly, that's just a part of it, because this guy knows a lot about the magic green plant, and I swear, the best thing to talk about when high is Zaza, how it's grown, the differences in strains, the differences in effects. It all becomes 200% more interesting when you blazed. And on top of all that, you know for 100% sure that this dude will never freak out nor ruin the group's vibe because he got too high. Shit, my man might freak out for not being high enough.
Nicotine, the only highly addictive substance besides alcohol and caffeine that the world government is cool with. And although nowadays we know smoking/vaping literally kills you, we still let it slide because, well, money. But nicotine addiction isn't as obvious as, I don't know, crack addiction for example. So how exactly do you determine if you have a problem? And if so, how serious should you take it? Well, the easiest way to tell if you're addicted is obviously if you own your own vape, or just the nicotine is in your everyday routine, meaning you wake up, eat breakfast, vape, go to work, vape, drive home, vape. But if you fall into this category, you probably already know you're addicted, but el nicotino doesn't always make it so obvious. From my experience, I've found that it low-key has a mind of its own, and when it enters your system, it instantly starts rizzing up your brain, firstly giving you the buzz, and after that, it'll curl up all close to you and 15 minutes later whisper, "Hey, that buzz was pretty nice, right? You should buy a vape." And depending on your mental fortitude, you either do what it says instantly or you fight it. But the more you consume Nick, the stronger and smarter that little voice will get. Cause it'll start analyzing your brain and giving you suggestions based on where you last got that buzz. So if you go to a party and at that party do some vaping, next time when you're invited, the little voice will tell you, "Ooh, a party. That's the place where we get to vape without feeling bad about it. Cause I mean, everybody's doing it anyway." And from there, you'll become what I call a social vapor, which is someone who only does it at gatherings, parties, get-togethers, etc. by just asking for others to pass their vape. But being a social vapor doesn't mean you're addicted, unless you find yourself going to these gatherings for the sole purpose of getting that sweet, sweet buzz. We've determined that being a social vapor doesn't instantly make you addicted, so what does then? Well, probably when you get to the point where instead of hoping that someone has a Nick stick in the group, you don't risk it and buy your own to take with you. This might seem innocent enough at first, but ask anybody who is a Nick fiend and they'll tell you that you start being addicted when you buy your own vape, even if it is just for that one night out. Yet most people don't realize this at first, because as I said before, nicotine is one smooth-ass criminal. It is a master of deceiving its victims with lies like, "You're not addicted, it's just one vape. You're not addicted. Look at Johnny, he's puffing an F-bar 24/7. Now that's addicted." Worst part is, most dudes only realize they're being deceived when it's too late. Well, not too late, it's never too late to quit, but when you're on that physical addiction pack, it's gonna be way harder compared to if you're only mentally addicted. And if you don't know the difference between mental and physical addiction, then don't worry, it's quite simple. Physical addiction is when your body starts dysfunctioning due to the absence of the substance, aka nicotine, it's used to getting daily, which basically means headaches, vomiting, dizziness, depression, lack of motivation, trouble focusing, etc. Mental addiction is what most people have. It's just your brain telling you to go get some nicotine in your system for whatever reason it comes up with. For me, it usually has to do something with, "You had a hard day. I think you deserve a break with a vape." Or, "Oh boy, we got a long day ahead of us. I think some nicotine would really help us through it, don't you think?
And you wanna know the worst part? It actually scientifically does make working and concentrating easier. Yeah, here I am talking so much shit about vaping, yet nicotine itself is not actually bad. It's how we get it in our system that's harmful for us. There's been a bunch of studies showing that nicotine helps with accuracy, maintaining attention, fine motor skills, and short-term memory, but only when you have it in your system. Basically meaning nicotine is a lot like caffeine, the only difference being you can drink a cup of coffee made with natural beans and reap the benefits for a while. But with nicotine, you either have to inhale Chinese sweatshop chemicals, stuff nickel pouches under your gums, or smoke a cig, which is like insta-cancer. Well, all of them give cancer, but cigs are the most lethal. That being said, nicotine is still a highly addictive substance, and when you start incorporating it into your daily routine, it's gonna become a necessity very quickly. And although caffeine is similar in nature, getting addicted to it isn't as fast of a process. Also, unlike nicotine, which for 99.99% of people is an unhealthy habit, drinking 1 to 3 cups of coffee a day is linked to a lower likelihood of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, liver and endometrial cancers, Parkinson's disease, and depression. So if you're consuming it in moderation, it can actually be beneficial. Anyway, we've determined that nicotine is a sly fox, understood the differences between physical and mental addiction, but also learned that nicotine itself isn't actually bad. Rather, it's the way we consume it and its addictive nature that's not very good. That being said, if you're getting buzzed from a device you yourself bought, then I think it's safe to say you're addicted to some regard. But now a new question arises. How addicted are you? And I think to answer that, we're gonna have to bust out the greatest video format ever created in the history of man.
The 3 levels of nicotine addiction.
Level 1. Social vapor. As we discussed earlier, at this point, you kinda just vape on night outs or when you hang out with your friends, but that doesn't mean you're not addicted, it means you're only slightly so, and just equate socializing with vaping. Which, if you're able to keep it this way, you'll be fine, and if you ever decide that, nah, I don't wanna quit hanging out with friends with vaping, you can quit relatively easy. Difficulty, 3 out of 10.
Yo, what's up?
Give me a fucking puff!
Level 2. Dispo Fiend. You couldn't resist the buzz and went ahead and started getting your own dispos. Now you're way more fucked than before cause nicotine is in your daily schedule, so your body is starting to get used to it always being available when needed. Depending on how long you keep daily puffing will determine how hard it is for you to quit, but on average, if you've been hitting it for a couple weeks, I'd say difficulty level 6.5 out of 10. Pretty hard. But an easy strategy to try is if you're not a coffee drinker, start being one. Basically, if you're struggling to go completely cold turkey, instead of a morning rip, try a morning brew. I know substituting one addiction for another doesn't sound that good, but as I said earlier, having 1 to 3 cups of coffee a day is actually healthy. That's also why this method only works if you're not already a caffeine fiend, because if you are, this won't really do much. Level 3.
Why are you talking to me? Help me find my vape! Or I'm gonna fucking die!
Oh, you're a fiend, a pirate, a capitalist for that nick. You've completely handed over your life to the substance, meaning you don't even try to fight it anymore. Your brain says, get some nick, and you grab one of your 13 dispos or your prized possession box mod and rip until you feel kinda shitty. Difficulty quitting, 9 out of 10, only cause I've met a person who literally uses nicotine pouches like it's a fucking oxygen tank and he's 1,000 feet underwater. Meaning, mans wakes up, puts one under, and then throughout his entire day, instead of alternating between having one between his gums and not having one, the instant he takes it out, he puts a new one in. This dude once tried to quit cold turkey, and I shit you not, 4 hours later, he was experiencing headaches, dizziness, vomiting. That's just sad, man, for real. So to answer the question of if you're addicted to nicotine is, well, if you're already asking that, then you probably are. But hopefully, you were able to identify where you stand currently, and use this video to realize that you're slightly addicted and better to quit now than have it be way harder in the future, or that you've already moved up the ladder and need to take action now before you get to the point of the nicotine pouch guy I told you about. I don't know about you guys, but I can be kind of a straight to the point, don't care how you feel type of guy. But for some reason, when I'm faded, that low-key changes. Like, the Zaza seems to make me care more about others and how they feel. Don't get me wrong though, I'm not out here going out of my way to help some grandma cross the street and then run into the nearest blood donation bank where after donating my blood, I volunteer myself at the soup kitchen. It's more like if I wasn't high and was waiting in traffic and an old lady was crossing the street, I think, oh my god, you chose the perfect time to cross the street, didn't you? Now I have to sit here like an idiot. I got to do, woman. Move! Compared to if I was theoretically high. Look at that grandma crossing the street. I wonder where she's going. Probably to see her grandkids. Just wonderful. So yeah, I guess the Zaza makes me more inclined to other people's problems in life, whereas if I'm not faded, I seem to focus mostly on my own without taking into account others. But it's not that simple if we're trying to answer the question of, does being high make you a better person? Because another way to look at it is, it just makes you more lazy. Like the example of the grandma crossing the street. What if the difference in reaction is not that of me being just a great all-around guy, but the Zaza just making me forget why I was in a rush in the first place? Being annoyed, stressed, nervous, etc., although not nice feelings, are symptoms of doing something out of your comfort zone, and doing something outside that zone is really the only way to get anywhere in life. Think about it. Do you know anyone who is actually successful in anything without frequently being stressed? You probably don't. Well, you might, but that dude is just probably some snobby rich kid who embezzles funds from their dad's yacht maintenance fund into their shitty little company they started with their friends that they only use to make it seem like it's them who's making money, when in reality all they're doing is taking funds from their rich parents and putting them into their pocket and telling everybody I worked for it, but hey, what do I know? Anyway, we've concluded that the Zaza can make you a more understanding and better person, but it can also make you a lazy mofo who loses the ability to step outside their comfort zone. So, is it bad? Nah, I mean, not really. As we know, the key to everything in life is moderation. And if practiced correctly, it can help you with literally everything, not just the Zaza. My point here is that there is a time and place for everything, so there is no real answer to if the Zaza makes you a better person, because it all depends on the context of the situation. So if you're always faded and sit around and eat pizzas and watch the Shaolin Chronicles all day, but then say your philosophy is, bruh, I'm all about peace and love. I don't wanna be like you, stressing out all the time. I chase tranquility. Your argument is not valid to anyone who is trying to achieve something in life besides tranquility. But then again, it goes the other way around as well. So a 24/7 stressed out, always working, never resting dude would say something like, if you want to make it anywhere in life, you can never rest. You gotta outwork everyone, even if that means drinking 6 energy drinks a day, vaping 24/7 to stop the disease of feeling tired, and you gotta sleep a maximum of 4 hours a day to maximize your work time. And obviously, you gotta work out at least 3 hours a day to build that muscle. Like, bro, chill. You might be rich, but what does that matter if you die at 35? Obviously, these are two extremes, both at different far ends of the spectrum, and really, you should try to position yourself somewhere in the middle. There is a time and place for everything, especially for the green magic plant, because if you start frequently using it, it really does take your edge away, and if your goal for life isn't only tranquility, then that is definitely a bad thing. Then again, if you're an uber-focused person who finds it very hard to relax even when they should be, then the Zaza can definitely help you in that department and give you a well-deserved break. And dare I say, it can even make you a better person. Or at least make it seem like it to the people around you, cause in reality, you're the same guy, just on a different planet. For example, here are some everyday situations whilst high versus when you aren't. Number 1, someone asks you to do the laundry, but you're not high. Hey bro, can you please do the laundry? Okay, I will. Versus if you are high, hey bro, can you please do the Shh, of course I'll do the laundry. You did it last time, it's only fair. Second situation, you're stuck in traffic on a sunny day, whilst you're not high. How long is this shit gonna take? I should've just taken the second road. Versus when you are high, ooh, is that a new Porsche? Damn, that guy must be rich. So nice just bathing under the sun in this traffic. Oh shit, I gotta move. Number 3, you're in the cinema and you're high. This is awesome. Versus you're not high, this is lame. Okay, the last one didn't really add anything to the video. I just really like being high in the cinema. Anyway, I hope you learned something from this video and maybe achieved tranquility. I think everyone here has thought about going to an amusement park high, because it just seems like the perfect mix of thrills and exploration. But what was holding me back from going for a long time was that I was scared of there being some sweaty employee who would call the SWAT team on me or something for having too much fun. Thankfully, I went on a trip to the Netherlands with my brother this summer, and you know your boy wouldn't let the golden opportunity of getting suited at an amusement park without any paranoia fly by. So we went, and man, it did not disappoint. It all started with us buying a pack of monkey balls, which were the strongest edibles they sold at the shop.
I don't remember exactly the THC levels or whatnot, but the guy at the register said to eat one if we wanted to get totally bedoozled. Now, we drive in 30 minutes away from the theme park and decide to down one each so we can be baked by the time we're there. 30 minutes goes by, we at the parking lot, and this shit ain't kicking at all. The problem was, we wasn't sure if we allowed to bring him in, so now we got a dilemma. Either we eat one more and risk going insane, or we don't and we risk not getting high enough, and therefore being bummed out the entire time. And well, we ain't no pussies. So we decided, whatever, let's eat the damn second monkey ball. How crazy can it be if it ain't even kicking after 30 minutes? Now we in the park, it's about 50 minutes since the first monkey ball and it's starting to kick. First ride we went on was the main attraction. It was the biggest in the park and had like a super steep fall, but a damn 40-minute line. And bro, in the time of waiting, I could feel myself slowly but surely crawling deeper into the depths of insanity. We get to the front of the line and we somehow autopilot our way to the roller coaster. At this stage, with my soinked mind, I'm thinking my death is a certainty. Cause I'm 6'6" and there was no one there that tall. So I just assumed that the damn railing was gonna be too low for my head at some point and I was gonna get decapitated like a fool. But bro, once the ride started, all those paranoid thoughts disappeared and they were replaced with pure joy mixed with an adrenaline rush. Hey man, this is it. We're gonna die. This is a damn children's theme park. They haven't taken into account giant fake tourists like us. Hey bruh, I think that might have been the coolest thing I've ever done. After that, I wasn't paranoid no more, and the adrenaline kinda pumped me up. Now we looking at the map trying to figure out where we going next. Problem was, this place was massive, and cause we were baked out of our minds, we ain't understand a damn thing. Hey man, I think we here, right? So we gotta go this direction and we'll make it to this water ride, I think. Yeah bro, I think so, yeah. Bro, where the hell are we? Thankfully, the second monkey ball ain't hitting yet, but man, we were barely functioning already. So we walking around knowing that at some point we were gonna go into undiscovered territories of high. In a foreign country with no one to call and no way home. After an hour of stumbling around, we found the water ride thing. But yet again, the wait time was 40 minutes. But ain't no way we backing down now, so we put on our big boy pants and faced the challenge head on. And what a challenge it was. The second monkey ball, well, it was hitting, and it was hitting hard. What made the waiting 20 times worse was that we were standing in line next to this group of teenagers that were acting real weird, looking at us, then whispering to each other, then giggling, that type of stuff. Worst part was, there was no way out of that situation. We couldn't just go a little bit back cause we sticked out like a sore thumb. Two 6'5" guys with eyes looking like we had just unlocked our Sharingans, talking in our weird gibberish language. They was probably thinking we gonna put him under a genjutsu or something. Thankfully, we somehow survived that hell. Honestly, I think that was the only bad trip I've ever had, cause those damn teenagers kept staring at us and made me feel real paranoid. Unfortunately, the ride was rather forgettable, so I don't remember much about it. But now, I'm gonna talk about the craziest part of the whole experience. Getting stranded in Mushroom Land. If you know anything about amusement parks, you know that they are pretty damn big, and it's quite frustrating to navigate them, especially if you're high AF. Well, in the location we were at, there was a place called Mushroom Land. At least that's what I remember it as. It had 0 rides, just sights and museum type things, so we wanted to avoid it, but somehow we kept on ending up there. The first instance of this was after getting off the second ride. We started walking, not really knowing where we were going, and we stumbled into the land of mushrooms. It was pretty cool at first, I guess, cause it had like these little huts and castles to explore. But bro, it was goddamn endless. You guys know that scene in the Percy Jackson movie where they go to that casino with the intention of staying for a couple minutes but end up being there for like a week? That was pretty much what happened to us. We couldn't get out. Whatever we tried, it felt like we were running in circles. The same shitty statues and weird expeditions came up again and again until 2 hours went by and well over 10,000 steps. In the end, by pure luck, we somehow stumbled on a random ride with a 15-minute wait time, which ended up being one of the best, cause it was like space-themed, trippy, and mixed real well with being high. Anyway, we got off that ride and there's about 1 hour left until the park closes. And honestly, I'm a little pissed off, cause we literally only been on 3 rides in the span of 4 hours. So we running around looking at the map scattered around the park, trying to get on one more ride. But it's really damn hard, cause at this point we are zoinked beyond comprehension, and I can't focus on nothing.
especially on some complicated map. Again, by sheer luck, we ended up finding a ride with a 20-minute wait time, but the park was also closing in 20, so there was a good chance we were gonna wait in line and end up not even getting on the ride. And well, the level of bedoozled we were, we stood there for 10 minutes trying to decide to wait or not. Bro, you wanna go? We could go, I guess. Should we though? I mean, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. We waited in line and it ended up working out because we got on the ride and out the park on time. The only problem was that we had driven there with a rental car and we were still baked. How baked, you might ask? Well, let's just say we couldn't find our car for an hour, even though the parking lot was pretty much empty, but we just kept on getting distracted by random things. Hey bro, I feel like these bushes are like really well built. Bro, we gotta find the... okay, you know, there really is something about these bushes that's just really nice. Anyway, once we found the car, we kind of understood that there's no way we're driving back. So we ended up sleeping in the car, and not gonna lie, I slept like a damn baby in that brand spanking new Peugeot. I don't know about you guys, but I swear, these days whenever I go outside to catch some fresh air and enjoy the glory of the sun, I'm instantly greeted with mofos triple tapping the Elfington like it was a raid boss. Young, old, fat, ripped, it don't matter. Everybody consuming the Nick some way or the other. Shit, not even our goddamn elementary schools are safe. 12-year-old kids be waking up one day and just being like, you know what? Today seems like the perfect day to get an awful addiction that I will regret for the rest of my life and struggle to control daily. Yeah, better hit up Jimmy too. Maybe he wants to join in. But not all nicotine addicts are the same. In fact, there are a lot of different perspectives on the whole addiction aspect. But one of the worst types to be is the dude who never admits he is addicted. We all know a dude like this. Mofo be sucking on the Benjamin 24/7 or stuffing pouches under his gums every 5 minutes. But when asked if he is addicted, he always hits you with the, "Nah bro, just a fur. I can quit whenever. I just don't wanna right now." Like, what you mean you don't wanna? Bro been consuming so much Nick, his brain has literally turned into a damn elf bar. And when you tell him to prove it by, I don't know, not vaping for a week, they always hit you with that, "Man, I ain't gotta prove nothing to you. You don't know me, what I've been through. I'm a dog, I'm a killer." Now, it's okay. It's gonna be okay. Even though this dude kinda stubborn, I feel for him, cause who really wants to admit they can't stop? But this next dude, I don't feel bad for at all. The guy who seems to think it's cool to be addicted. Okay, no one thinks it's nice to be addicted, but I mean, that's what this guy pretty much is. They think vaping makes them cool, and therefore shames others for not wanting to. In reality, pretty much every other nicotine consumer will tell you to never start doing it, and that it's much cooler to just breathe air. So, therefore, this guy is, or at least should be, hated by everyone on planet Earth. And if you ever catch a mofo pushing vaping to a homie, just run up on him and slap the shit out of him. Kick him in the balls while you're at it, or, I don't know, at least spit in his face or something. Fucking asshole. But enough of this hobgoblin, let's move on to the dude who smokes cigs. Okay, this might offend some people, but cigs are goddamn disgusting, and I'm pretty sure they're even worse for you than vaping and nicotine pouches, although don't quote me on that. This guy lives and dies by, "It's all natural, bro," and proclaims, "At least I know what's in it." Like, sorry for hanging on to hope that just maybe, I might not get cancer, cause this dude already marked his calendar for the good old iron lung. Not much to say except for, man kinda smells, so 1 out of 10, never touch nicotine, let alone cigs. But now it's time for the occasional addict. Okay, this one is near to my heart, cause sad to admit it, this is kinda me. This dude doesn't have his own vape or pouches or cigs or anything, but that doesn't mean he isn't addicted because he still consumes Nick whenever he's offered or the opportunity arises. Speaking from experience, this guy kind of in limbo cause even though there could be weeks, even months when he doesn't touch the Elfington, but then one day he might go somewhere with the homies and do something like this. You wanna hit this? No. Okay. on second thought. So yeah, even though it's a seasonal addiction, it's still an addiction. So call yourself out every time a nicotine addiction moment happens. But time for the last one. I only consume nic when I'm stressed. So, you only hit the Puffington when you're stressed, eh? So, what qualifies as being stressed? You lose your job, you get robbed, you lose your car keys, you stub your toe, you experience a mild inconvenience of forgetting the lights on in your room, so now you have to go all the way upstairs to turn them off. So, yeah, as you can see, this one is kind of a slippery slope, cause believe me, the more you mess around with the nic, the more you're gonna be in moments like this.
What? That's so... Man...
Unfortunately, it's all a ruse, cause in reality, you only consume nic when you feel like it, so you're addicted, just like everybody else. And a word of advice, don't start vaping, okay? It's not good for you. I think a lot of you guys can relate when I say I f***ing hate nicotine. No, I mean I love it, but I actually really hate it. And if you watch my Types of Nicotine Addicts video, you know that I consider myself a seasonal addict, so pretty much I might be nic-free for a whole 3 months or something, but then fall back into the trap like, life is so stressful right now, I swear, I got so many problems and worries, I wish I could just somehow relieve some of this stress. Preferably in blueberry flavor. And then I have to start fighting my own damn brain cause it just starts telling me reasons why I deserve that blueberry stick. You haven't vaped for months. Just buy one, come on. You had a rough day. You deserve it. You have a long day ahead of you. It would be much easier with a little bit of cancerous chemicals.
Like, no. F you, brain. I shall not fall under your illusions again.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But fool me. Well, shit. And I don't even know why, like, whenever I have something I need to do that I don't really feel like doing at the time, my brain automatically gives me the signal to go buy some nic. Like, why? It doesn't actually make the task easier. Shit, all it actually does is make it harder, cause you get all lightheaded and dizzy. Every time I get a week or more off the stuff, I feel great and am as productive as ever, but for some reason, my mind still believes if I just had some nicotine, I would be even more productive. It's kinda the same with grass though, cause I always feel like I'm getting shit done when I'm high, but in reality, I'm working at like 30% capacity, but it just feels like I'm working at 200, cause the Zaza makes everything feel so significant, even just doing a small amount of work feels like you just finished studying for them Harvard entrance exams, fool. Anyway, back to nicotine and how I got accidentally addicted to it again. So basically what had happened was I was just doing what I normally do, you know, making videos and shit, when suddenly I was invited to a barbecue. And you know, me being the CBD bro I am, I ain't really wanna go cause I had shit to do. Plus, you know, everybody was drinking there and I was just trying to smoke that grass. But reluctantly, I accepted, and not to my surprise, everybody there was consuming that nic one way or the other. And well, long story short, I cracked and took a nicotine pouch from one of the people there. Well, by the end I took like 7 or 8, but that doesn't matter. And my dumbass thought, well okay, just one day. But then the next day I went out with some friends and by the gods, 2 of them were also carrying nicotine pouches, so obviously I did some more. And then the same thing happened the day after that, and by the end of it all, I just went ahead and bought a fucking elf bar. Cause I guess all it takes to go from months clean to elf bar in your pocket sucking on a colorful stick when stressed unable to control your urges hobgoblin is 2 days of stuffing your gums with nicotine pouches. Thankfully, I didn't let myself go too far, cause after that elf bar, I didn't buy any more, but instead placed myself in specific social situations where I was able to receive free nicotine pouches from others. And that's what I'm on at the time of this video as well. So basically, I don't have my own vape or whatnot, but every time I go somewhere where someone does, you better believe I'm asking for a quick hit. But don't worry, I try not to be too much of a goblin, so usually I cash app like $2 to the dude I'm borrowing the vape from. It's kinda hard though trying to explain to people like, yeah, I don't vape. Only when someone else has a vape, then I vape quite a bit. But hey, that's what's helped me quit nicotine like 5 times by now, although I always end up coming back to it after a couple of months. Nonetheless, it helps because in order to get my nicotine kick, I have to go out and socialize, which can be quite hard if you also want to be faded and watch Star Wars Fury at home. So a lot of times, I just don't go and therefore don't vape. It's only when my nicotine addiction outweighs my desire to be high at home when I go out and vape. And because I'd rather watch Disney Plus and munch on some Doritos than just sit somewhere and suck on a nicotine stick, I've been able to control my nicotine addiction quite well.
You know, back in the day, if you wanted to get high discreetly, well, sorry bro, there was no way. I mean, you got the J, which stanks up everything. You got the bong, which although doesn't stank as much, where you gonna hide it? Imagine trying to sneak by your parents on some... What you doing dropping shit at a time like this, boy? Downstairs, I came for, I came down, I wanted a glass of water, yeah. Boy, you must be neurologically disabled if you think that'll excuse you from breaking some dusty-ass dollar store piece and spilling bong water all over my goddamn living room. No, it's... Here, take a smack of this shit. It'll get you proper, boy. Well, that sounds like a pretty fun... Anyway, point is, you're not gonna be hiding that shit for long. Only real option you had was the pipe. But bro, at that point, you sacrificing everything you got for one high. Like, I swear, the pipe is the last way anybody in their right mind wants to get faded. Every time I hit it, it's like my lungs and throat revert back to factory settings. Like I ain't never inhaled anything besides O2 before. Basically, by smacking the pipe, you're hurting your lungs and throat to the point it kind of fucks up the first 30 minutes of your high. And that's exactly why when the first Pendulum was invented by the scientists at Yodiland, it changed the game, bruh. Never before could you get obliterated on the go regardless of where you were or what you were doing. And thanks to that, getting high has become so damn easy, you got motherfuckers making obliteration their normal state. Never before could someone do anything even remotely sus and you could just assume they were fucking high. My man had sunglasses on for no reason, faded. Dude was staring somewhere for a bit too long, obliterated. Dude went to White Castle for a culinary experience. Well, that motherfucker's just weird. Goddamn cafeteria food. And you can forget about gas stations and fast food places. I mean, at this point, it's like damn near mandatory to be blasted on the job. And I got nothing against that, just since 90% of the time I find myself at 7-Eleven, I'm fried too. And the motherfucker that's supposed to be helping me is trying to scan my items with his damn iPhone. Nah, but for real, the pace that these fried motherfuckers work at is fine when your brain is running at the same low frequency, but if you're in a rush, it'll take damn near every ounce of mental strength you got to stop yourself from forcing a damn self-checkout.
Would you like a bag with that, sir?
Fuck no, here's the money, just give me my shit. But don't get me wrong, I got nothing against a good old Pendulum. There really ain't a better on-the-go, fast and easy way to get faded. Unfortunately, I didn't go to college and kinda cheated my way through high school too, so the 15 or so brain cells I was able to develop that keep me from losing and forgetting shit turned into, well, basically zero. And for that reason, I've already lost 2 of them. One of them slipped out my pocket while I was at the movies, and I'm pretty sure some teenagers stole it, cause after the film, when I was looking for it with my flashlight and shit, these motherfuckers were giggling in the back, looking at me like I was a damn circus clown. Coupled with the fact I was fried as fuck, I was fighting my tears. Dog. I just got robbed by some damn teens and I can't even do shit cause it was illegal to even bring it in there. Second one I lost in a very similar manner. As I was getting out my Uber going back home, my sweatpants did me dirty and flinged that fucker out as I was standing up. Took me 2 minutes to realize, and when I did, my Uber driver was probably already hitting that shit cause when I called him back to ask for it, he said,
Let me check. It seems that you only left me a $1 tip. Sorry, I couldn't find it.
And that one hurt the most because that was the first pen I ever had and the one I used for my first Pendulum adventure, which my first time was, well, by far the highest I have ever been in my life. I'm talking freaky, I'm talking third person. Shit, it was the first time in years I truly greened the thaw out. For you see, normal weed or bud is just that, normal. So the strength of it is confined in the realms of reality, unless you know it, it's moon rock. Anyway,
Anyway, the biggest difference between smacking a pen versus, let's say, a J is that the pen doesn't have normal bud in it. It has concentrate, which, if you're unaware like I was, is about 10 to 20 times stronger than bud. Knowing that, the best way to get faded off the pen is by just taking small rips to avoid getting sent into the goddamn shadow realm. For example, the YouTuber DamianLuck925 is very well known for taking multiple blinkers, which is the biggest hit you can take, outside in social situations, most notably in random classrooms, like it's nothing. So me being at my USA Airbnb alone in the confines of my living room, thought to myself, okay, so it looks like the basic hit I should do at least is one blinker, but probably more. Yet, what was waiting for me on the other side of Blinker City was something I was not prepared for. Something unholy. The voices. I'll never forget the horrible things they were whispering. They made me almost delete my YouTube channel. Anyway, it started with me ordering a 1-gram pen off a weed Amazon, and it arrived the very next day in a beat-up Cadillac with a delivery man who, from the looks of it, tests out every product he delivers just, to make sure the quality is there. Yo, bro, you're here for the weed, right? You got the cash? Yeah, I ordered through your website, though. It should be paid for already. Yeah, I forgot I'd take online orders now, too. Anyway, here's the stuff, bro. I trust you. Hey, thanks, bro. Have a good one. You too, man. Hello, Mr. Bro. We got a delivery for you from Weed Amazon that should be arriving in an hour or so. Will you be home then? Wait, didn't I just... I'm a gorilla in a fucking scoop. Gonna pull up in the zoo. Oh, I better get out of here. So I went back to the crib, Benjamin in hand, and prepared myself to get faded. And obviously, I went for a blinker, my very first hit. But since I had never smacked a pen before, I inhaled it for about 4 seconds and stopped because it was so light on my throat, I thought it wasn't working, but it actually was. And from that 4-second puff, I was already quite bamboozled. But since I have this weird rule of every time I get new stuff, I break it in by doing a massive hit, I thought, well, fuck. I was supposed to do a blinker, and went for it again. I inhaled and inhaled for a good 8 to 10 seconds, but the thing just wouldn't fucking blink. It got to the point where there was tears coming from my eyes and my throat was begging me to stop, and it ended up like... I had made a grave mistake. I was so fucking high, I felt my soul leave my body. I was so high, I forgot I was even high. But it was just the beginning, cause over the next 10 minutes, I just kept on getting more faded, and the demons in my head kept on getting louder and louder. But if you know me, I kinda refused to green out, so I just kept on doing random shit like reading the ingredients list off my bag of M&Ms, reading the comments on my videos. Change it for blue. Do things has changed for real. Imagine being another YouTuber. Kill yourself. Was not doing good. I was keeping a strong facade, but inside there was a war going on. I was feeling like Naruto with the 9 tails. Only instead of an all-powerful destructive force talking to me, I was just really fucking high. Anyway, so yeah, I was grading out, which hadn't happened to me in years, and I concluded that because the voice of reason was completely being outspoken by the voice of tweaking. The good news is though, the hype from the Benjamin doesn't last too long, and in about 1 to 2 hours, I had started coming down, but at that point, I was already crawled up in my bed, scrolling endlessly on my phone, until I finally reached a state where I felt good enough to come out of emergency mode and order some food and ate myself into a food coma. So I learned, well, firstly, that motherfucker Fulcrum is actually insane, or his tolerance is just something else, bro, and that the Benjamin is best enjoyed in puffs of 3 to 5 seconds and not blinkers. Ever wonder why some dudes can inhale that freshly cut grass an unholy amount of times with eyes so red you think dude is bleeding internally on some exorcist shit, but when asked, how you feeling, bro? They'll respond with something like, or, honestly, could go for one more J. Well, the reason for a response like that is due to their grass smoker power, which, contrary to popular belief, isn't all about tolerance. Although that can be an important factor, it isn't everything. So Randy, who's 30 years old and has been on a tea break for 2 years now, but has been consistently inhaling that grass for the entirety of his adult life, will be much less likely to freak out over some stupid shit than, for example, Jimmy here, who's been getting high for 2 months straight every day and claims himself a Za God. The reason for that is, Jimmy, although his tolerance is almost maxed out, still can't handle the fade in a situation even remotely out of his comfort zone. All that being said, we all start off on Level 1.
Bro, I think it was laced.
Level 1, the good old times where the Za was still mysterious and scary. This is the level you're at if you've inhaled that magic spice only a couple times, and only so in the safest, securest, and good vibey situations possible. And honestly, while at this level, you couldn't even imagine doing anything besides eating Doritos and scrolling YouTube shorts whilst blasted, cause you just haven't gotten used to the feeling the green bestows upon you. That being the increase in significance of every thought and action, and because you don't know how to control it, your experiences with weed are mostly in your own head. So when you high, you can't focus on shit. Like really, the only thing that seems to catch your attention for more than 10 seconds is that sweet, sweet flavor on those Sour Patch Kids that you never knew could explode in your mouth like that. Now, depending on if you getting blasted solo or with friends will determine your speed of leveling, cause usually if you with friends, you get used to the Za more quickly because you're socializing. Plus, you know, there's always that one guy in the group that likes to mess with the newbies by getting them as high as possible and then being like, hey guys, let's go to the gas station. Which might seem whatever, but if it's your first time, you might just have a damn panic attack at that 7-Eleven. Cause I swear, everybody is looking at you, and the cashier, he's onto you. Yeah, fuck that guy. Anyway, if you keep on eating grass, you'll move on to Level 2. I am the Zaza God. Remember Jimmy, the self-proclaimed Zaza God? Yeah, well, he ain't quite the Za God he believes himself to be. To be honest, he barely a Za foot soldier. Cause it's all good and fine if he gets blasted up to Mars in the comfort of his own home, but take that comfort away and you'll most likely find him walking behind the group on his own looking like a lost puppy. And the reason for that is, my man's thought that he's been high so many times he can be high anywhere, which sadly isn't the case. Think of tolerance as the size of your dick. It can be massive, destructive in nature, and uncontrollably powerful. But what does that matter if all you use it for is to jerk off? Same with tolerance, it's situational, so you can be unfazed by the Za in the comfort of your own home, but as soon as that comfort is taken away, you a total noob again. Instead of focusing on the size of his T, Jimmy should have been focusing on upping his riz and going out and pulling some quality baddies, if you get what I mean. I'd say going from this level to the next is one of the biggest steps in between levels, cause to confidently say you a Za God, you should be able to keep your cool in most public situations, even if everybody is staring at you and every car with a hint of blue is a FBI agent ready to take you away for good. You gotta be chill, like a cucumber. And if you do study the cucumber enough while spugging off the broccoli, you might just advance to Level 3, Transformer Optimus Prime. This level is called Transformer because it's a level where your Zaza adventures completely transform. Instead of only smoking up at the comfort of you or your friend's home, you can now make plans in somewhat chill public areas like fast food places, cinemas, the park, the spa, or really anywhere where you know people will most likely be minding their own business. And because of this newfound power, you probably have also started blazing that green more, which depending on the type of person you are, it could start affecting your everyday tasks and goals negatively because although hard to admit, the Zaza can and will make you a lazy mofo if you let it. But as I said, it all depends on the shape of your character, so if you can control the inherent laziness the Za tries to curse you with and still keep on rolling with your goals without becoming a Dorito munching World of Warcraft playing stay-at-home hobgoblin, at some point you'll move on to Level 4. Yeah, to be honest, I'm high right now. Welcome to the ultimate purgatory and struggle of a consistent Za enjoyer. As I said before, you only advance to this level if you didn't become a Star Wars lore arguing Prime Dumbledore admiring League of Legends playing high stay-at-home goblin. Wait, why are you Star Wars lore all the time? And I love Dumbledore. Well, at least I don't play League of Legends. Anyway, as I was saying, it's quite hard to make it to this level, and even harder to stay here, because nowadays, you are so used to doing stuff while blasted, you could theoretically be in that state 24/7. But the problem is, you also know being high 24/7 is expensive, plus, even if you don't notice, I'd say for 95% of people, it makes them less productive as well. So that's why I call it purgatory, because you're constantly pondering the question, should I maybe do a quick hit before doing this? And although I'd love to say I have the answer to that question, I don't. It all depends on you and your situation. So for example, if I had a job interview, I wouldn't do a quick hit. But then again, I know dudes who say the Zaza makes them less nervous and stressed, plus more talkative. So for those people, I'd have to say, go ahead I guess. But if one day you find a definitive answer to the question, should I maybe do a quick rip before this? You'll move on to the final and most elusive level there is. Level 5. Za God. You have entered into your own subconscious and from it dug out answers to humanity's biggest questions like, are we alone? Why are we here? Why is an 80-year-old man running for president again? And of course, should I bang that Benjamin a little bit before heading out? And I'm sorry to inform you guys that I do not know much of this level because I have yet to make it this far myself. And I still have no idea why Joe Biden is running for president again. But I can tell you this much. This is the level that completely transcends tolerance, as you really don't even need to worry about that anymore, cause you know your body to the point you always know what amount is the right amount. Also, you have figured out the perfect formula for working hard and following your dreams, whilst also inhaling that za and being a chill and interesting dude, not just some corporate suck-up. So to all my